We have started our official broadcast here, folks. I'm waiting for Jack Bristow and Stephen Maddox to show up here. By the way, if you want to join this, let's see. Search for May 16th, Andy Kaufman's 30th anniversary on Google Hangouts. Look for that. And you should be able to. I don't know if I'm going to go to that page. I don't have any questions available for me. That's what we're going to do right now. That's what we're going to do right now, okay? Is it too late? Is this still happening? This is actually happening right now. Okay, hold on. Where did it go? Where did that screen go? If this is actually recording right now, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Is this actually happening? This just goes to show you. This just goes to show you how little I know about this thing. It's supposed to be live? It's supposed to be live, I think. So this is live. I'm listening to myself talk. This is crazy. This is demented. What? This is totally live right now. This is funny. Okay. Is this it? What? How do I get back to my screen? How do I get back to my screen? Thank you, folks, for bearing with me right now. This is actually happening. Okay, so this is happening. I don't know how to see myself talk on this thing. I might have to end this and then begin it anew, maybe. Your events. Okay. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? I might have to end this. I hate to say it, folks. If you're still watching, I might have to end this because you know what? It's all experimentation, right? It's all experimentation. You never know. What? Huh? So this is supposedly happening now. This is supposedly happening now. I'm participating. I'm involved with the madness. I see myself on there. I just want to see where the special screen is. I can't find the screen. Wow. You might be hearing me right now, is what it is. I'm listening to myself talk. Okay. All right, guys. All right, guys. All right, guys. All right, guys. How do I... Something tells me I shut off my microphone. I don't know. I don't know. This is new to me. So, it's new to me. But you know what? I'm going to do this in a relaxed fashion. I gotta freak out. I'm just going to simply somehow figure out a way to get back into this thing. I gotta figure out a way. This is literally live right now. So, question is, how do I find the screen? How do I do that? 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 How do I see it? Activity connect. Okay. View your dashboard. Maybe this is what it is. Is this it? This is live right now, but I cannot see the special page where I see everybody talking. So that's what's so crazy right now. You might see me, but I don't see you. One thing's for sure, I cannot see you. Maybe I gotta click on my own link. That's probably what I gotta do. That's probably what I gotta do. That's probably what I gotta do. You know, I just realized. Okay. Is this it? I got it, folks. I might have to start something a whole brand new thing. I don't want to do that, you see. I don't want to do that. What's going on here? What's going on? What's going on? This is live? Is it not live? This is live. This is actually happening right here. I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. Hey, yeah, everybody. I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out. Hey, everybody, I'm figuring it out. Start. Here we go. Is this it? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Before you join, join. Okay, here we go. 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 Q&A. How to do that? Oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. I tried to do Q&As. Made it wonky. Plus. There we go. Here we go. Yes. There we go. All right. I just realized that I probably have to invite people. All right. Here we go. Folks, we are live. We are here. I'm going to try to do some special things here. Try to do something special. If I can do I want to do some kind of like oh, are you hearing me? Hello. Hello. Google effects. Well, I don't know where these guys are, but I'll be here shortly. Maybe they think 5 o'clock is Albuquerque time. Maybe they think it's Albuquerque time. We'll check it out. I'm going to check it out. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check it out. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It's happening, folks. It's actually happening. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? It's really happening. This is really happening. This is a real deal here, folks. Can you hear me all right? Hello. Yeah. Hello. Hello. Oh, I can put a link in here. I'm going to press pause here on the Andy's Army podcast. gonna try and do that. I'm gonna try and do that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try and do that. I'm gonna get myself a link on there. What I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get myself a link on there. I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna go ahead and go put the link on there. What I'm gonna do right now. What I'm gonna do right now. What I'm gonna do right now. Alright. I think while we're watching, we might as well bring up here we go. We bring up a link. This is a man named Lynn who lives in Albuquerque. His name is Lynn right now. And as we've been told throughout he could be Andy Kaufman. Is he? I do not know. YouTube. There's a YouTube clicking thing here. What does that do? Can I put a video on here? I'm gonna try. What do you guys deserve it? I'm going to give it a try. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna go ahead and whoops, yeah. There we go. Okay. Alright, so now is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go right ahead. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put screen share. See, I don't want to stop this broadcast because I know because this is the link. And I do not want to stop the link. This is the link. This is the link. It says on the computer with the mic that it's taking too long to load Hangouts. Maybe I should try a computer with the weird mic. Alright. I sent Jack Bristow a link. Everybody's learning what to do. That's right. Oh, everybody's learning just what to do. with Google Hangouts. One, two, three, four. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do with Google Hangouts. With Google Hangouts. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do with Google Hangouts. Yeah, here we go. Yellow.
Hey, I don't think you guys are gonna hear me.
Dig it! Dig it! You and I are the only ones here. Did you just come on because you just saw an invite?
Yeah, I just saw it this time. I tried it on the other computer.
Oh no. Your microphone is disappearing again, Jack.
Oh man. Let's see.
Wait, I can hear you now.
Yeah, the computer is weird. I tried it with the other.
Oh crap. I cannot hear you. As soon as you start talking, I hear you, and then all of a sudden it disappears, and all of a sudden...
That's weird. If I talk in here, can you hear me better?
Keep talking.
Can you hear me in here when I talk like this?
Yes, I can, a little bit. Wait, you said you have a new microphone, right?
Yeah, but I didn't know. We'll see. This computer, it's not going to work on this
Yeah.
Right here, it was supposed to work.
Dude, Jack, that's really incredible. It's funny because you'll talk and I'll hear you, and then all of a sudden it'll just go completely, like I'll hear like a...
I'll send you a Twitter message. I have an idea. Let me see. I don't know if you can hear me.
Hey, how's about this? What about do you have headphones? Do you have headphones? Because sometimes what happens is if you plug the headphones into the microphone jack, you can talk into it.
I'll go get those.
Yeah, just for kicks. Just for kicks. Let's try it. So try actually plugging the headphones into the microphone jack and then talk through it. Okay, so you can hear me?
Hear me now?
Yeah. I can hear you. What I was thinking was try plugging that into the microphone jack, and then try to talk through the headphones, because they might work as... Oh, wait, you have a microphone on the headphones?
I see what you mean. Let me see. No, I think I'm gonna look up there and see if I can find it. I don't know what happened. I'm muffled up.
Do you have other headphones, or are those the only ones you have?
One second.
I'm gonna serenade you while you get those. Oh, Jack, for some reason your headphones work fine, but your microphone is hard to hear. We have a viewer. We have a viewer now. You might be wondering just how. Hey! I was serenading your room.
Messy. I'm gonna send you a message on Twitter.
Oh, you sent me a message on Twitter? Alright, let's see here.
Yeah.
Alright.
Sick.
Check out this Twitter message. It says the computer with the mic that is taking too long to load Hangouts. I'm going to try out with the weird mic, at least you can hear the show right stuff with pad and paper. Oh, that's true, that's true. Well, I can say this, Jack. Earlier on, do you know who John? Oh yeah, you do. Yeah, you've been talking to him. Let's see, where is he? John Krauser, aka I am John Krauser. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna have to log in with the other computer. Please send another invite. Okay, yes, I will do that. So you're going to the other computer right now, Jack? Okay, yes, we will test it out, and I will send you another invite. Oh, I see what has to happen here. Another invite. Alright. Here we go. We're sending Jack Bristow an invite. Sending Stephen Maddox. And we're sending Andy Kaufman an invite. Invitation posted. Alright. For those of you listening and or watching, one viewer, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. Hey, I'm talking to you. If you're watching, you might be wondering what the heck is going on. Well, folks, this is what's known as pure imagination. Let's see if we can play that song. Ooh. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time till it gets started. Technically, it started already. We have one viewer. We had someone who we were talking to, but he had to go. He will be back soon before you know it. He will be back before you know it. May 16th, folks. I'm going to read to you a passage. Some passages. This is Lost in the Funhouse, Life and Mind of Andy Kaufman by Bill Zim.
Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you very much. Hello.
I want to read to you a passage. This is what I've been up to right now. We got 2 viewers, 1 viewer. That's fine. It doesn't matter how many viewers there are. It does not matter. What matters is the conversation that's going to be ensuing here. in a little bit. Once Jack joins the group, and once Stephen Maddox joins. So, in the meantime, I'm going to read this to you. Here we go. George had come to Cedars-Sinai to hear the diagnosis and sat there with him, and they heard, quote, he said, "George, you got to get me on a Letterman show after Christmas so David could ask me, Andy, what'd you get for Christmas?" And I could say, "Cancer." That was the first thing that he said to me after the doctor told him. Quote, he called Lynn in San Francisco. Quote, he called me and he said, see, I told you I got cancer. You know, it was that type of thing. He knew he was going to get it, and I hadn't believed him. It was like, see, I told you so. He wanted no one else to know, especially his family. Since he was not going to die, there's no reason to alarm anyone. Lynn came down from San Francisco and moved into the little bedroom with him at Linda's. He did not want the radiation. He drank herbal sludges instead. The arm felt better. Then the arm felt excruciating. They went to Dr. Irwin Grossman in Beverly Hills, who gave the arm radiation, and the pain stopped. Quote, he became my immediate best friend, unquote, said Grossman. He was very sweet, very appreciative. The radiation helped the pneumonia as well, since it shrunk the tumor blockage, thus lessened the cough. Eventually, he would see Grossman every day, receive a 1-minute dosage of pinpointed radiation, and leave. Nausea was ever attendant. He once threw up in Linda's car on the way home. He decided to call and tell Michael on Christmas Eve. Michael heard his brother say the word malignant. Like his brother, he chose not to fully grasp what that meant. Andy swore him to secrecy, and Michael said nothing to anyone. He slept in and out of Cedars-Sinai for tests. He wondered sometimes what they were testing for. Some days he drove himself to his appointments. Some days he was driven. He often made Rubens and Young wait before entering the examination rooms to see him because he was meditating. Quote, you waited for him, said Young. Doctors, you know, are not used to waiting. Unquote. Some days were very extremely angry days. He avoided sadness, however, for the most part, since there were alternatives. Quote, Andy didn't want to hear bad things, said Rubens. He researched alternative treatments, and so did Lynn, and so did Linda. He's not a person who gave in to failure, said Young. He believed that through the spirit he was going to win, but he was not going to die. He listened to visualization tapes constantly and wrote out affirmations. Quote, I'm getting better and better every day, unquote. He wrote better and better over and over. He also wrote, I'm not my papoose Psy, therefore I cannot have cancer. These things are really proven to be chromosomal, said Young. It's about just having the wrong genes. Oh, someone's here.
Can you hear me?
Hey!
Hey.
Hey, man.
Yeah,
Jack was...
Huh?
Jack was just here, but then he had those crazy headphones again, and so it was cutting out his microphone. We couldn't hear him too well.
Oh, bummer.
So he went to a different computer. So now he's switching his computer so that way we can... ideally, those headphones will work in his computer.
I have so got to buy a book, Hangout for Dummies, because this just, to me, isn't very user-friendly.
I know. I had to watch a YouTube tutorial on how to do this thing.
It's taken me like 35 minutes to figure out how to join the call, and even then I didn't figure out how to join the call. I just finally, after pushing 100 different things, I joined the call. But there's no way I could even retrace what I just did to join the call. It's not very, to me, it's not very clear. Maybe I'm getting old, but I usually have pretty good luck with software and understanding it. I just don't get this.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I once lost this actual page that we're looking at right now. Somehow I accidentally lost it, and then I accidentally pressed play on the YouTube channel, which was actually playing this live. So I was listening to myself it was actually playing for me what I was just saying like 30 seconds ago. So then it
Oh,
got
wow.
me in this weird time machine loop.
Yeah, that's when I felt like I was making progress was maybe 5 minutes ago when I could see you live and could see you sitting there playing the ukulele or whatever to pure imagination, and then at
Yeah.
another point I clicked it open and you were reading a passage about George Shapiro. So I felt like I was getting closer when I was actually able to see you, but man, I just don't have any luck figuring out how to join these dang Hangouts.
It's crazy because it seems like such an awesome thing. Like the fact that this thing could actually be recorded and put on a YouTube and people
Oh,
can watch it
yeah.
live. Like what an amazing idea. And then yeah, it's just very bizarre. So when I sent you the invitation, so I had to actually send you the invitation while I was broadcasting live, right? I mean, is that how it worked?
I don't know. I know I saw the invitation. I saw it. I saw an invitation over an hour ago and clicked yes that I was going to attend. And I kept going back to it and kept looking for anything on that page that was clickable. And eventually, looking at different things, something said notifications, and I didn't see anything there. But so in other words, I have no clue. I just kept clicking and pushing and clicking and tapping until finally something said join the call, and I said yes, and then I had to read a disclaimer, and then I said yes, and boom, here I was. But yeah, I just don't get what's going on. But I'm here, so that's cool. I feel sorry for anybody else that's trying to get here. Because it's.
I hope Jack Bristow can find his way back. He had I think he had a tricky time getting here too.
Yeah. And like you said, it's so cool. It's such a great use of the technology, and it's free, and we can have a bunch of people on here, and it's really cool. It's just I don't know. For my taste, it needs to be a little clearer. It needs to be a little more straightforward on, how to get on a group call and all that.
Well, that'll be interesting to ask Jack how he actually ended up navigating his way to this place.
And it's definitely different. Like right now, I can't call you as an individual. That was what kept throwing me off too, is because I kept going to Hangouts and just calling Curt, and it would ring and ring and ring, and nothing would happen. And I can only assume that's because you have this Hangout going on. But it's weird to me that it doesn't alert you that somebody's trying to get a hold of you. It seems like there's I don't know if I call them bugs, but it seems like there's things they need to get worked out.
Yes.
Or like I said, I just need to get a Google Hangouts for Dummies book and maybe just invest some time in trying to get it, but I don't really get it.
Man, I'd like to. Ideally, I mean, I would think that maybe they have something like this, an app for the phone, so you could actually just broadcast wherever you want, wherever you're at. That would actually be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I would imagine they do. I'm sure they do. I mean, right now I'm using the app on the iPad. I would think the iPhone has it, and I do know that there's a dialer where you can dial the number of a phone. So I'm sure you can. Once again, though, I'm clueless as to how it all works. So, but my guess is with the dialer that there is a way you can, talk to people on their phones.
I just want to say real quick, it looks like Sherry Havens, she was on our Andy's Army podcast. She's a huge Andy Kaufman fan, and she helps run one of the pages on Facebook. So she happens to be our viewer right now. So I just want to say hi to Sherry real quick, because she's been a long time Kaufman fan. And yeah, I figured like while I was waiting, I would read passages from this. I was rereading this book, and it's so crazy because they keep going out here for. So they're saying he slipped in and out of the Cedar Sinai for tests, and these people, Rubens and Young, they said they would. He often made Rubens and Young wait before entering the examination rooms to see him because he was meditating. Quote, "You waited for him," said Young. "Doctors, are not used to waiting." And they were like, "Oh, Andy didn't want to hear bad things," said Rubens. "He researched alternative treatments, and so did Lynn, and so did Linda." Quote, "He was not a person who gave in to failure. He believed that through his spirit he was going to win and that he was not going to die." So Is that something that maybe, do you think that there are maybe some agreements that were made between Kaufman and Nathan McCoy as to, maybe in a sense, Kaufman was pretending to be Nathan McCoy and picking up his behavior, and then McCoy was maybe picking up Kaufman's behavior as well?
I don't really know. I mean, I think Nathan just was quiet and said as little as possible. But I don't really know. And you figure the book, as interesting as they are, they're memories of they're from the memories of people, and who knows how accurate that is. Plus, you got to remember they're from the memories of people that are, especially in the case of Bob's book, trying to be careful about what they say. I mean, here's a guy, Bob Zamuda, who 20 years ago was saying, "Oh, well, no, he didn't fake his death," but what would he be doing now if he was dead? He would be faking his death, blah blah blah. So, and then you look at what he's doing now, 20 years later, where he's talking about that he really believes he faked his death and stuff. You can just see what am I trying to say? You can see the difference of the openness now, especially now that Stanley's died. You can see the openness. It's just like this long, drawn-out process where people are slowly getting more open. The downside of that is it's the boy who cried wolf. Bob Zamuda could go on national television right now and say Andy definitely faked his death, and people would be like, "Oh yeah, well, of course, Zamuda, you want to cash in on it." But I guess what I'm saying is you got to remember those two books were written from the perspective of not being completely truthful or not being completely forthcoming. Which book was that from? Was that from the Zim book or Bob's book?
Yeah, the Zim book.
Zim book. So
yeah.
So you got to wonder, okay, who is he getting that from? Is he getting that from Michael? Is he getting that from Linda or Lynn? Whose memory of that is it? Is he getting it straight from Rubens?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's what's so crazy is that there's this. Oh man, I dog-eared it. It actually brought up, which I thought was really cool. They brought up the Slycraft Hour, which of course that was where that whole story is phenomenal. Yeah, where he met.
Pagani.
Yes, and that whole story is just phenomenal in the way that came about. But they mention the Slycraft Hour on here, and Pagani. He corrected some of the stuff that was in here. Gosh, where did that page go? He said that this guy got it wrong, basically. That because like for instance, Alan Abel makes it sound like he was friends with Kaufman, and then Alan faked his death, and then Kaufman was angry with him, or joking with him, like saying, "Oh my gosh, I was worried that you actually died," which was giving the idea that is what also added to the fire of Kaufman wanting to fake his death. Right. Now Pagani, the way he explains it is that he introduced Kaufman to Alan Abel, and then they got to talking, and then Alan Abel ended basically Abel faked his death, came back out, and then Pagani met Andy Kaufman, and then he goes, "Here you go. Here's my buddy who faked his death," and then that's when we started grilling him.
Most likely, a year or two or three had passed. You got to figure somebody like Alan Abel. You don't want to call him a liar, but just like Bob and just like anybody, he embellishes. He makes the story even better than it was, and then even better than it was. And next thing you know, it's so far away from the truth, it's ridiculous. And that's just kind of, I don't know, that's human nature. And I guess because when somebody's really babbling, they don't think that everybody's going to be, they don't care, I guess. They don't really think that people are going to be fact-checking. It makes a good story.
Right.
But yeah. I saw one just the other day. It was hilarious. I posted on the Andy Kaufman News, I posted the Judd Hirsch clip where he's talking about Tony Clifton. And then I posted the Tony Danza clip where he's talking about Tony Clifton. And it had been a while since I watched him, so I rewatched him. Actually, I think the Danza was the most recent, the interview he did with Sam Roberts, or whatever the guy's name is. So Danz's recent interview within the last week or two, compared to the Judd Hirsch interview of a few years ago, and Judd Hirsch is talking about how Clifton was just late and it was horrible and he was hours late to the rehearsals and all this. But you watch the Danza interview and Tony Danza says, yeah, I mean, it was funny because Andy Kaufman was always late, but boy, Clifton was on time. He was always on time. So it's that thing of just memory is terrible. Everybody's memory, way more than we want to admit, is terrible. And then, you know, the whole Chinese fire drill thing of one person told this story and then the next person repeated it, and the next person repeated it. And by the time you're done, it's so far away from what originally happened, it's ridiculous. Yeah, the telephone game. Diane said it's telephone game, not. But anyway, so it's that thing of it's funny how memory over time changes. And you know, we were talking a little bit ago about Stephen Rubens, and it's like if you sat Rubens down and said, okay, when you treated Andy Kaufman, and he'd said, yes, when I treated Andy Kaufman, or when I talked to Andy Kaufman. And there's a perfect example of, okay, at the time it was like, you know, okay, here's this guy and I'm treating him and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, when he died, okay, well, we've confirmed this was definitely Andy Kaufman, blah, blah, blah. But then now when you talk to him and he goes back and talks about it in, you know, in memory, it's going to be, yes, I talked to Andy Kaufman, and yes, this and that, because that's what we do. That's what, you know, that's how our memory works. And I don't know, there's so many great examples of that in the Andy Kaufman world. I mean, how many people, if you ask them right now, would you say, okay, did you see the Lawler slap? They'd say, oh, yeah, I saw the Lawler slap when it happened. And it's like we genuinely believe we did, but if the truth was told, you know, not that many saw the Lawler slap. You see it later in reruns, and then your memory just kind of molds into this thing where all of a sudden you think, yeah, I saw it, or yeah, I remember it, or and how many people now say, oh, well, I always knew all along the Lawler slap was fake, when in reality, if you went back in time 15, 20 years ago, they'd say, oh, yeah, that was the most dangerous moment on television. I remember he slapped him, you know, but as soon as Man on the Moon came out, and we all went, oh, okay, Lawler and Andy were in cahoots, you know what I mean? Then our memory changes, and now today we're saying, oh, well, yeah, I knew all along. I always knew, you know, it's just memory is hilarious. And for some reason in the Kaufman world, it's really funny to see, you know, how people's memories don't jive with, not only they don't jive with other people, they don't jive with themselves. They don't jive with things they wrote themselves or things they said themselves.
Well, that's what's interesting. Is shortly after rereading the Andy Kaufman revealed, you know, the Zamuda book, shortly after reading that, then I ended up seeing hearing an interview with Bob Zamuda, and he changed some of the facts that he actually wrote in the book. He kind of changed some of the specific like lines of dialogue or whatever. Like he'll like in the book he goes when he first met Kaufman, he goes, oh, he said sucker, and then I drove off.
Right.
But then when you hear him in podcasts, he's like, oh yeah, he said asshole, and then he drove off. And that's kind of like, that's a big difference to me for some reason, because like you always read about how Kaufman never swore, you know, or if he swore, it was, well, he was just like playing a character, and it was obviously just a character, you know.
Yeah, with Zamuda, he's very gifted, and Alan Abel, you know, he's along those lines too. He's the kind of person that, you know, in their mind, are they lying? Absolutely not. But they are so into storytelling and embellishing and making everything so interesting that basically they're constantly spewing, you know, bullshit. And sometimes they get close to the truth, and then they get farther away from the truth, and then they get close. But yeah, if you record them or write them down and then you go back and look at it again, you're going to find so many inconsistencies. It's crazy, but you know, that's the way a showman like Zamuda. That's just the way they are. It's the way, and it's great. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you know, I certainly wouldn't want him in a legal situation with me where I had to depend on him, because he is such a bullshit artist. You know what I mean? You know, you read things where he said, oh, you know, Andy Kaufman called me one night and talked about faking his death, and I said, oh, count me out, and all that stuff. I mean, obviously that's revisionist history. That's he wrote that in the book or wherever he said that in the article, you know, the article, to make himself come off as, you know, I had nothing to do with this. Yet you hear the phone conversation where they're joking about it. It's like, wait a minute. So the guy in the phone conversation who's saying, okay, here's what we do. You know, you
Yeah.
die, and then a month later you come back. This is the same guy who says, it was 3 a.m. and Andy called me one night and said, I'm thinking about faking my death. And I said, oh, count me out. You know what I mean? He's a bullshit artist.
Right. Right.
You know, and that phone call in itself, even that, you know, that's something Andy and Zamuda discussed many, many, many times. You know, you have, and I've said this to people before on Twitter. When you hear that phone call, you have to remember they're doing this as shtick. They're doing this for the, you know, what Andy saw as an album in the future when he was making these cassettes. So they were very aware that, okay, it's almost like improv in their minds. Okay, let's talk about the fake death thing, and they joke about it and stuff, but it's for the recording. There's no, you know, it wasn't scripted, it was improvised, but it was improvised based on the fact that this was something they had talked about and joked about for years. I mean, it's something Andy talked about for years and years and years.
Wow, man.
But like I was saying on Twitter the other day, that's one thing people, to me, really need to appreciate. They need to appreciate that phone call, because the Kaufman estate very intentionally has been super duper duper slow at releasing things. Uh-oh, somebody's onto something. Where is he? Something outside. What is it? They think we're being attacked by aliens or something. I don't know. Hey, Smuckers, Skittles. What is it? Oh, you don't know. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. Anyway, you think about just how slowly everything gets doled out, very, very slowly. I mean, it wasn't until '99 when these two books came out. And these books came out because the movie came out. And like we were talking about in the earlier call, they all kind of one nudged the other as far as this stuff coming out. That was the first time in print anybody said he talked about faking his death. And you figure so many people that read those books dismissed that and didn't think about it. But you have to really appreciate here in print, both in the Zim book and in the Zamuda book, he is being quoted, and people are being quoted as he talked about faking his death. So now another 15 years goes by, and all you've got is that. All you've got is hearsay. You've got people saying Andy talked about it, but you have no auditory or visual proof that Andy ever talked about it. Now, boom, they released 30 years later, and it wasn't lost, it wasn't whatever. These tapes have been held on to, just like everything else that's being held on to that belonged to Andy. This recording is released where you actually hear Andy using those words, you know, fake my death, which is huge. I mean, that phone call is huge because, like I said, look at 30 years. There's the progression. Okay, you got 30 years. Okay, well, after 15, all of a sudden now you've got some quotes from John Moffat, Zamuda, and Lynn, and people talking about him faking his death, but that's just hearsay. And then another 15 years goes by, and boom, you have an actual phone recording of him saying, when I fake my death. So now some people have to be scratching their heads going, wait a minute, okay, this guy that I thought was all sweet and innocent, this Lotka character that I thought all these wackos on the internet were just, you know, nuts. Okay, so it said in print that he had talked about faking his death, and now I'm hearing his actual voice where he's talking about faking his death. You know what I mean? It amazes me that people aren't going, you know, really flipping out over it. But it doesn't really seem like people are. You know, it doesn't seem like they are. And then there's other stuff. There's journals. I mean, Michael has commented on journals where Andy talked about faking his death in the journals. He talks about, you know, different ways of doing it and this and that. And that's stuff that could and should and will be released in the future. Videotape, you know, where actual video visually where you're seeing him talk about things. And this is stuff that very intentionally is held. It's being held onto and not released and just very slowly doled out. But
so how do you know if, like, when? How do they figure out when is a good time to release this stuff? Like, is it? How do they realize, like, okay, this is the date we got to do it? What's the?
You know, I don't know. I think you figure it's coming from people that are confused. They don't know what he wants. They're going on little to no direction. I guess they're just kind of going with their guts. But for a long time, there was very little that could be done because Stanley was very anti anything, and for good reason. He was very anti the whole fake death stuff, very anti, like Zamuda says in that one video, Stanley Kaufman didn't want the Clifton stuff in the movie Man on the Moon. He didn't want the, I don't know, he rattles off a couple things. The wrestling, yeah. Zamuda says Stanley Kaufman didn't want the wrestling in Man on the Moon. He didn't want Clifton in Man on the Moon. He didn't want blah, blah, blah. And then Zamuda jokes, so the whole movie would have been Mighty Mouse, a 2-hour movie of Mighty Mouse. So I guess what I'm saying is a lot of this stuff being sat on and not, nothing happening with it is because of Stanley Kaufman and the way he feels about it all. And as far as I know, the thing with the audio clip is, Stanley was sick for a long time and then he died. So I think that has something to do with the album finally coming out. In other words, today, if Stanley was in good health, I don't think we would be hearing that audio clip yet. You know what I mean?
So do you have an idea that perhaps now there's going to be more of a floodgate of these things? Like maybe they might come out in a closer succession of events?
Closer than the 30 years, yeah. I don't know if you'd call it a floodgate, but I think the trickle is going to pick up a bit. I mean, and to me that's clear what Michael did in November at the Andy Kaufman Awards. I mean, to go on TV and get involved in this whole fake death business and the whole daughter crap was huge. Michael would not have done that last year or the year before, but Stanley being dead is the difference. And I said it when Stanley died and when he was sick, that this is a game changer. This is going to make things different. Now, I still don't think they're going to come running out with a bunch of stuff, and that's because they're walking a really fine line of they want to release stuff. The estate obviously wants to make some money. They want to honor Andy's memory, but simultaneously they don't want to trigger legal proceedings and an exhumation and all that. You know what I mean? So they have to really be careful about what they do and what they release. I think the next big thing is going to be a movie that the estate is doing. I'm not sure when that's coming out.
I thought I saw somewhere online that Al Parinello was putting together his own documentary.
Right. That's family sanctioned. That's what I'm talking about. That's the Kaufman family, Kaufman estate sanctioned movie, the one that Al Parinello's doing. But as far as any reveals or anything, I think the next big push is going to be Zamuda's book. There's no doubt. I don't think it's going to be earth-shaking. I don't think it's just going to be jaw-dropping or anything like that. But it's definitely going to be way, more advanced and revealed, because revealed was written under the iron fist of Stanley Kaufman going to sue him at any minute. So, I mean, revealed. He had that pressure. He had that pressure of, if he slipped up, he's going to get shut down by Stanley. So now he's got that freedom. So this book that Lynn and Zamuda are putting out is, it's certainly not going to be a tell everything, but it's going to definitely be more mature than the Andy Kaufman revealed book, because
that's what I was wondering. Is like, after all this time, I can't imagine Lynn still holding the secret with Zamuda. I mean, especially after Stanley's death. Like, do you think at this point she might have told him how it happened, how it worked, and all that?
No, I don't think so. And I don't, like I said, I don't think the book's going to be all that earth-shaking. I think it's just going to kind of add fuel to the fire and lead more along the mystery. But I don't think it's going to be earth-shaking, because I don't think any of them want or have the courage or they don't want to do something that's earth-shaking, because realistically something that's earth-shaking is going to tip the scales, which is going to cause an exhumation, and then that's going to cause scandal and inquiries and embarrassment and disaster. You know what I mean? So it's like they deep down know they don't want that. So that it's how far can you push it? How far can you push it to sell a book, to make money, to make things interesting, to make Andy's legacy, because in the end that's what it's all about. It's about Andy being legendary and immortal. So and this is what I do too, as far as how do we drag this thing along and keep fanning the flames, but at the same time don't cross that line to where it comes out in the real world, and the real world digs up the body, and the real world flips out, and people go to jail, and careers are ruined, and doctors lose their licenses, and medical boards are questioned, and blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
What's interesting is I was thinking, like, if Lynn had decided to tell Bob Zmuda, because it was saying earlier that he was going to reveal how he thinks Kaufman faked his death. Now, this is the interesting thing, is that if Lynn knows the truth, I cannot imagine, I can imagine the two of them brainstorming on a completely different premise as to how it happened, rather than saying, okay, there were only a few of us involved, and this is how we did it, and only this person knew this thing, and that person knew that thing, and this person knew this thing, and we all kind of decided that this was what was best. And
right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's more likely they've put their heads together and come up with something contrived. Because, I mean, and Bob says something to the effect of when Andy will return and how he'll do it. And the reality, unfortunately, like I've said many, many times before, there's not going to be a reveal. There's not going to be a return. So that right there tells me, it's definitely some P.T. Barnum stuff, some showman stuff is what this book's going to be about. But it'll be interesting to see. I just want to know when it's actually going to come out, because there's different release dates, confusing, conflicting release dates on it.
Well, yeah, that's what's so bizarre about it. You figure it would be May 16th, like that'd be the perfect time. And I thought I had read before online that May 16th was when they're going to release it in the UK, and then like sometime in October they're going to release it here or something.
Yeah, I mean, those dates might just be, they might just type them in and they don't get updated or something. But yeah, if you go to Amazon US, it says October 7th. And if you go to Amazon UK, it says May 22nd. And then if you go to a site called Rough Trade in the UK, it says May 15th. So, I want to believe it's actually going to come out in this month, and that the Amazon date is off and it needs to be updated. But who knows? I mean, maybe the earlier date's a mistake, or maybe it is only going to be released in the UK and not released here. But then again, we can buy it because a lot of those places ship overseas. So, which then gives me the opportunity to make the joke about needing it to be translated, which I always have fun doing that. I've made that joke a few times that I want to buy the UK version. I just have to find somebody to translate it for me.
Yes.
Translate it into Americanese.
Well, you know what's so interesting is that sometimes, for instance, a friend of mine is a huge Duran Duran fan, and she got John Taylor's book, and her American version, in addition to looking different, a different cover and everything, and a different size, there's different information in there than the American version. And it's very strange, and it's very bizarre to me. And I think, like, would they do something like that with the Andy Kaufman book?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Who knows? I mean, maybe there's things that I'm just making stuff up here using my imagination, but maybe there's things that can be printed in a version over there that Zmuda wants to avoid printing in a version over here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you never know, though. I mean, it may be something like that, but then again, it might not. I don't know. Maybe there's things that he can say in that version that's released in another part of the world than he can say in this version. Yet, obviously, we're all going to get our hands on it, no matter what it says. But it might be a legal thing. I don't know. I mean, but my guess would be it's nothing. It's just a simple thing of the Amazon date is off, and hopefully here in about 2 weeks the Amazon date is going to be changed and it's going to be available. I've tried to find stuff from the publisher, Bella Books, and I really can't. There's no information I can find from them or their site or anything as far as when they're gonna put it out.
So one of the things I want to say earlier, you were talking about, Michael, carefully going along that line, sort of admitting the fact that, well, in a strange way, that Kaufman faked his death. But then, in addition to that, I think it was, like you're always talking about the smoke and mirrors. The greats, the sleight of hand. It's like they don't. If they were to pay attention to the smoke and mirrors, the people out there in the audience would be looking at the smoke and mirrors. But if they're, let's see, how do I explain it? So Michael doing the daughter, being a part of the daughter thing. Do you think that the main thing was, in addition to showing that the fact that Kaufman faked his death? Do you think that the other one was to promote the Andy Kaufman Awards?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think so. I think the awards have been kind of, and I don't know this for a fact, but to me it's kind of been dying off. It's been a little less each year as far as the interest out there in it, and it's kind of dying. So I think it's very straightforward in that part of why they did this is, one, Stanley's gone, so now they can. They got, they have permission now to do it since Stanley's not there. And two, to drive interest to the awards. I think that was a big part of it. Matter of fact, I would say that was the majority of the reason they did it, was to cause a sensation that would bring attention to the awards.
That's exactly what I was imagining, and especially since they showed the video footage right there happening at the awards, and then people who had no idea that existed, it's all wrapped up within it. So without the people even realizing that it was maybe the main motivation was that it's a commercial for the Andy Kaufman Awards. Oh, here he is, Jack Bristow. Good. It looks like he's watching. But he just doesn't.
Can we see him?
Do you have your audio, Jack?
Oh. Black screen, no voice.
He's a ghost.
Huh.
Oh, one thing you were talking about earlier, Stephen, was the Tony Danza interview. Now, yeah, and you were talking about how people's memories, change and how they embellish stuff and all that jazz, and especially with the idea of people wanting to basically, for the lack of a better term, own Kaufman,
right.
Saying that they have the handle on what's going on with him.
Right.
So Tony Danza, he said that he went to the hospital and he would see him. Now, one of the things I want to ask you was that how many people would go into the hospital to visit him?
Well, real quick, not to cut you off, but your memory's a little shaky on that one. Danza was in the hospital for an infection, and one of the orderlies said, "Hey, did you know one of your coworkers is here in the hospital?"
Oh.
And he said, "Yeah, Andy Kaufman, he's upstairs. I think his back's out or something." And Danza went up and visited him. So Danza was actually in the hospital, got word from hospital staff that Andy was there, and went up and visited him. And he doesn't really go into what they talked about, but it was just kind of like, oh, and he looked bad. He was sick. The explanation for that could be that one thing Andy wanted to do just to kind of help support all this is, as Andy Kaufman go into the hospital once or twice for something totally unrelated as himself. So in other words, no connection to the person that's being treated. But in other words, one Saturday afternoon, Andy Kaufman goes into the emergency ward and says, "Hi, I'm Andy Kaufman. Horrible back pain. Really need to have it looked at." Boom, they put him on a gurney, take him up to a room. He has tests done. He spends some time at the hospital, and then he leaves. And that in no way is connected to anything else that's going on with Nathan. But Andy has found a way once, twice, how many ever times, to be seen going in and out of the hospital. That's something I'm aware of that might have happened, and I don't know specifics, but and who knows if it was just dumb luck that Danza was there. or did he know Danza was there and you know, made it a point to get himself admitted just to help kind of shore up the story, you know, and be seen, and you know, for all we know, somebody, yeah, you know what I'm getting at. I mean, it's hard to say, but I guess what I'm saying is, for an explanation of how Danza could have seen him in the hospital, it might not be faulty memory. Danza might have literally seen him in the hospital, because it certainly wouldn't be anything to go and get yourself checked into the hospital. I mean, I could do it right now. I could, you know, I could go down to Presbyterian Hospital down on Central and go into the emergency room and say my heart's in AFib and I've got this horrible pain, and within an hour I'd be up in a room. I wouldn't do that, but some people would, you know, and it certainly wouldn't put it past Andy to do that if it, you know, helped further his cause and pay for it. It's certainly not like he wouldn't pay for it either.
One of the things I was thinking about was that what's interesting is that throughout the years of following AndyKaufmanLives.com, which, by the way, it is because of those books that led me to that website and the whole just amazing stuff that ensued. And I just want to say, as a side note, and I know I've told you this quite a few times, but I've really valued just what you've been doing with everything so far over the years. And I've really appreciated the fact that I view you as one of my greatest teachers. In terms of various things. So I appreciate that. And Diane, you know, I think that's awesome that you're in the room right now, because you're like...
I'm not sure where she is. Where are you?
The fact that she's there, it's like...
I think she's on the porch.
It's just so cool, because she to me is just as much of a myth behind any of this stuff as anything. Even though I saw video of her and everything, it's just so cool that she's in the room with you, so I just had to get that out of the side, you know, out of the way. But
let me see real quick. I don't know if she's in the room. I think she is. Yep, she's on the porch. So there you go. I'm not showing your face, don't worry.
Awesome!
There's Smuckers, there's her feet.
Fantastic.
There's my laptop, and there's...
Diane, you know what? It's a pleasure to meet you, Diane. I don't know if she can hear me, but really this is phenomenal to know that throughout all this time, you know, like here she is, this myth herself.
I put up with the crazy guy?
That she puts up with the crazy guy.
Yes!
There's the...
Gosh, it's great to hear your voice. This is so cool. Thank you just for being around, Diane. This is really cool. And to the fact I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan, so like the fact that Diane happens to be her name is like an extra bonus points.
Twin Peaks fan.
Oh,
yeah.
I never got into it.
She never got into Twin Peaks, but
Agent Cooper always talks to Diane, and she's an invisible entity. No one ever sees her, but yeah, he's always talking to Diane.
That's cool.
We'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
We'll have to start watching it.
No Skittles.
What was the thing that I wanted to say? Oh yeah. So Stephen, thank you so much for teaching me so much, man. You've really helped me investigate so much about reality hacking and just having a blast with not having to take credit. And it's a great experiment in challenging your ego, I gotta say. And just like that's why I like it the most, because being able to be out there in the world and be various characters and whatnot, and for people to not know who's behind it, it's such a thrill, because then it's not me getting the arrows, or not me getting the criticism, or not me getting the accolades or what have you. It's someone else, you know. And so thank you for that. I really appreciate everything you've done for me and everybody else.
Glad to do it. Happy to do it.
It's just been awesome.
Cool.
Thanking you my Academy Award speech, okay? When that time happens. Just to let you know.
Okay.
So, okay, so since there's a good chance that Kaufman will be in the WWF Hall of Fame next year, since it's being held in California next year. What I'd really like to do is try to get really actually have a Tony Clifton flash mob show up there. I think that would be a lot of fun to actually see that kind of event happen.
That would be funny. That would be cool.
Yeah, that's something that I'm trying to plant this, in the minds of people who are Kaufman fans and of course wrestling fans and stuff like that. So that's something I really would like to do. Oh, Jack Bristow, he's back.
Can we hear him? Can we see him? The mystery
I'll
Jack.
be right back. I'm gonna refill my drink. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll have an imaginary conversation with Jack, who may be able to hear me. I don't know. I might be able to hear him, but I don't. So, talking to Jack, who may be there. So I'll just tell him there's Mario Kart. I won. As you can see, I got 38 points. Diane got 26 points. I was Birdo and Yoshi, and she was the little toadstool and baby Luigi, and I won. Now I'm seeing Jack. I'm not hearing Jack, but I see him, but I don't hear him.
Yeah, I don't think you can hear me, can you?
Oh, there you are.
I just heard that last part.
So sometimes,
Yeah, you're cutting in and out. I'm catching every other word.
let's see.
Oh, so Stephen, okay. Well, in your opinion, what would be some of the most ideal methods that could be used in order to kind of coagulate people together to show up to the WWE Hall of Fame dressed as Tony Clifton? What are some good methods that you can imagine that I could utilize?
Social media and start as soon as possible. You know me, I'm a big fan of Twitter.
Yes.
Setting up a specific Twitter account just for that purpose, and finding people who are talking about Tony Clifton. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know. I mean, just rolling up your sleeves and doing it. You got time. It would be, yeah. I mean, it would just be a matter of finding wrestling fans, finding Clifton fans, finding people who like to do that type of thing. Yeah. I don't know. The way I do stuff is I just sort of flumble into it and trudge along, and whatever happens, happens. So, that's all I can tell you is if I was going to do that, that's how I would do it. I would just sort of start, and then as I go along, figure out, okay, what am I doing wrong and what am I doing right, and what could I do to make it better, and then I do that, and then as I go along farther, then and that's pretty much how I do everything. I don't figure it out ahead of time, so I'm not a good person really to ask. So there you go. That's about all I can tell you.
Well, you helped. You helped with that. Okay, so the people who signed the last will and testament, there was Robert Morton,
Barry Sands,
and then Sandra Farton. Okay, now I don't know if you realize this. I mean, you probably do, but it just sounds like a fake name. Was that woman an actual real life lady?
I don't know, and I don't remember if I've ever researched or looked into her or what. I would assume she was, because if I remember right, he was trying to get. And this all ties into the whole fake death thing. When you look at it, now, and you go back and you look at what he was doing, he was trying to do that live on the Letterman show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it was saying in the book, actually.
Yeah, so bringing his parents onto Letterman and saying he loved them, and then the whole signing his will and testament, last will and testament, those were all things that tie into his eventual death, and then his eventual people figuring out over time that he faked it, and then his eventual being a legend and immortal. But for some reason, he couldn't pull it off. But because it was real, because he was really doing it, they did it in the lobby or something. I mean, because as far as I know, it's a genuine legal document. Matter of fact, I sent you a copy of it, didn't I?
You did, which I
okay.
appreciate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's the story. His intentions were to do it live and to bring in these NBC executives, and it was going to be funny. And for some reason, it wouldn't fly. He couldn't do it, and I don't know why or remember why or if I ever knew why he couldn't do it. But because he wanted it to happen, they did it. They did it in the lobby, or they did it in somebody's office, or they did it backstage or something. So it's a real live thing. He just couldn't get what he wanted, which was to have it done on television.
It just seems kind of suspicious because you got Barry Sands, Sands, and then you got, who's the other guy? Robert Morton.
Something like that. Yeah.
And then Sandra, which sounds like Sands.
Yeah.
Sandra Farton.
Yeah.
Which sounds like Morton, but then you add fart to it. Right?
Yeah.
It sounds like it was an invisible person that was there, and it's like, it's such an interesting thing that the last will and testament was signed by I don't want to call them strangers necessarily, but I don't know. You think like, in my mind, I would think that like I would want my family there, or people that I was like close with or something to see that.
Yeah,
so it was interesting that it didn't go that way.
I think the reality is they were real people. They were real NBC executives and employees, and it was more shtick, even though it was a thing that was, it was real. It was also shticks. I mean, it's like, I couldn't even begin to tell you. Diane and I got married after being together 20 some odd years. We got married 3 or 4 years ago, and I couldn't even begin to tell you who those witnesses were, and that's because it wasn't a thing. It was just, they were people there. They were like workers in the courthouse, and they were available to do that. So but I couldn't spot them on the street. I couldn't tell you anything about them. I couldn't even begin to tell you their names or anything. So I guess because our purpose was, boom, to get married, to get that legal document to get married. We didn't really care, the extra added things of it has to be signed by witnesses. And in this case with Andy, I don't think it was, he didn't care who it was, in that it didn't need to be family. It was actually humorous for it to be NBC executives.
Exactly, which adds to the whole absurdity of the whole thing. The fact that he just chose these people who are just NBC executives, and that adds so much extra suspicion to it.
Yeah, which he had a jokingly, but sometimes seriously, issues with NBC. I mean, everything from, you figure the whole Saturday Night Live business and the whole vote, and that whole business of he was saying he was going to sue NBC and take them for everything they were worth and turn them into a 24-hour wrestling channel.
Yes.
And all that kind of stuff. So it was, it was definitely shtick, but those were real people, and it was a real document, and it didn't work out the way he wanted. I mean, really, that's about all I know about it or can speak to, is it was shtick, but it was a real document, and it didn't work out the way he wanted, because what he wanted to do was actually sign it live on David Letterman, sign his will and testament, which would then add, right now, 30 years later, people would be going back and looking at clips, and it's like, oh my God, there's Andy signing his last will and testament on television. How bizarre is this? But that was one of the many things that didn't work out and didn't happen.
Well, I think what's interesting is that, I don't know if Kaufman was aware of this or not, but the idea of how videotape would just last forever into the future, not foreseeing the idea of YouTube, which actually extends the life of those kinds of things.
Oh yeah.
They're not just reserved for a video store, because I don't think back then they even had video stores. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember them having VCRs and stuff back then.
I would say to a certain extent he did. I mean, I know I did. You couldn't really, foresee like what's going on right now. You couldn't say, okay, well, this is definitely going to happen, or that's going to definitely happen. But I know we were like-minded in that the advent of the home video recorder and the fact that it became affordable was huge. I mean, in the early 80s, I don't know how old you were in the early 80s, but that was huge, that you could actually go out and buy a camera and a VCR and put things to tape. And to us it felt like this big advance had happened to where now media was going to be in our hands. It was going to be in our control. And you figure this is happening too right about the time the whole country's being strung up with cable television, and now all of a sudden there's this magical thing, public access television. So he was well aware that between public access, home video cameras, home VCRs, that now finally the power was going to start shifting out of these major studios and production companies and all this multi-million-dollar crap and start being in the hands of the little guy. And yeah, that was huge to him. And he saw that being important, and that maybe now people, would be able to, all of a sudden his special that, hardly anybody's seen, now it's going to be on videotape, and it's going to be sold, and it's going to be, people are going to be able to pass it around and make copies of it. So yeah, I mean, he saw that, because you figure really VCRs and all that hit big in the late 70s, early 80s. So he was definitely there for that. I mean, he was there to see that his special was going to be put on tape and rented and sold and copied and passed around. And he saw that, his Carnegie Hall show was going to get, be put on tape and all that. So there's no, he knew what was coming, and he knew that it was happening, and that it was going to be huge, and that it was going to be huge for people to get a better idea of what he had done and all that. So, but could have he, sat down and said, and eventually everybody will be able to do this thing called YouTube and blah, blah, blah. No, but I mean, I know I was thinking it, and he was thinking it, and I think a lot of us young video people in the early 80s were just like, finally. I love do you ever watch the show The Goldbergs? I love that show because the kid reminds me so much of me as far as, the young people of the 80s discovering that they had the power of television in their hands, and they could make their own movies, and they could do this and do that.
I have not seen that. I have not seen that movie, and I didn't realize that VCRs came out that early. I didn't even realize that was.
Yeah, actually, well, it's a TV show. I think it's on ABC, but you can see it on Hulu. It's called The Goldbergs, and it's really cute. It's a sitcom, but it's really well done, and it's produced and voiced and written by a guy named Adam Goldberg, who was a child of the 80s, and the sitcom takes place in the 80s, and we get to see things of through his life, but it's, tied in with, his videotape and things. It's hard to explain, but it's just really a cute sitcom. Were you ever a Reno 911 fan?
Yeah.
Clementine, the blonde, she plays the mother in the Goldbergs. And it's just really a cute show.
Yeah, I saw a billboard for it, and I wondered if it was kind of like a parody of Wonder Years.
It kind of has that feel, but definitely more humorous, definitely lighter and funnier. And it's like I said, it's well done. It's worth giving you ought to give one episode, log into Hulu, and give at least one episode a try just for fun. You'll see what I mean about it. Takes place in the 80s, and he was a video buff and really into his home video camera and making movies and stuff. So it kind of, all the stories kind of loosely tie in with that. But to answer your question about VCRs, yeah, I remember I was in 3rd grade. It was huge. In 1973, there was a commercial that just came out of nowhere where Dracula is talking about how great it is that he can now record his television programs and watch them at night, things that he can't watch during the day. And that was just like earth-shaking, because that's when it was, 1973, when all of a sudden a commercial VCR became available. And then
Really?
Oh yeah, and then it wasn't too long after that the whole Betamax thing and Beta camera thing happened. Yeah, I mean, I had always had an interest in production and always had an interest in television and all that. And as a young kid, I'm doing crash record edits with my cassette decks, and I've got 2 and 3 cassette decks going, and I'm crash recording audio and learning how to edit and all that. So yeah, I mean, when the VCR a camera VCR combination came down and down and down in price. I was working at McDonald's, and I was 16 years old, I think, and just saved up my money, my McDonald's money, to buy my first Beta camera. That would have been 1980. So yeah, 1980. I bought my first VCR. It was called a Betamax. It was $2,000. It was a machine that hung over your shoulder, and then a camera connected to it, and it was huge, and it was real heavy, but it was magical because now you could do your own television. And yeah, that was about 1980, maybe late 80 when I got that. And then shortly after that, saved up and bought my first VCR, which was $400, and that was a VHS. So I had a Betamax camera and recorder, and then I had a VHS VCR, and that's where I really started applying the editing I had done with audio. Now I'm doing assemble editing with 2 VCRs. I'm recording stuff on the Beta, and then I'm dumping it to the VHS deck, and I'm pausing and stopping and starting, and crash recording and assemble editing. And yeah, I went to college for television, but all my my learning came from those early days of experimental working. So yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is the advent of the home VCR and it becoming realistic for a normal person to buy it was huge in my life, and it was huge in Andy's life. I mean, when he got his first Betamax, I mean, that was huge, and that's, I love the fact when you talk about things that are still out there that eventually you guys will be seeing. I mean, think about the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of videotape that he recorded. I mean, this was a guy that recorded all hours and hours and hours of audio cassette, reams of paper, of journals, journaled. And when he got his camera, his camcorder, was just constantly taping everything. And those are all things the estate has that, eventually someday we'll get to see.
Man, it just would be so nice if they released that, because they were talking about, because I remember seeing that footage of him recording his grandmother while she was sleeping and stuff. And
yeah.
I was thinking, I don't understand why they haven't, especially now since there seems to be this big surge now, or I shouldn't say big surge, but it's a lot more, I gotta say the daughter thing has really driven a lot of people towards it. It's been really cool, because it just seemed like that just blew up on so many different news outlets and so many different blogs and websites and forums and all that jazz. And I just think now would be a good time to start releasing those things little bits at a time.
It's a tricky game though, because the daughter is a perfect example. Yeah, boom, it brought a whole bunch of people to it, but just as quickly those people poo-poo it and turn away and go, oh, okay, so it was just another hoax. And so simultaneously that can kind of drive people farther away from it. Now hopefully what happens is you bring in a whole wave of people, and then as the wave goes back out, you keep some of them. There's the little crabs in the sand that you get to hang on to who are now scratching their heads going, wait a minute, I wonder if there's any truth to this. And they start looking and looking and looking. So
yes,
I'm certainly not putting it down. It's great when that happens, but it's not like all of a sudden this big surge of people come in. Basically what happens is for about a week, hundreds of thousands of people are looking at the story and then going, oh, okay, TMZ says it's fake, or Smoking Gun says it's fake. I knew it was just more of that conspiracy nut stuff, and boom, they go back to their normal lives. And then the next thing that comes up with Andy, they'll go, oh yeah, well, remember when the daughter thing happened? And and the reality is you're never going to get everybody interested.
Well, but then again, the cool thing is there are those, and to me, I feel like those are the ones who really actually count. It's not necessarily. Eventually it'll be quantity. Right now, it's quality people, and if you just got a small group, and it's been happening, so ever since AndyKaufmanLives.com, they scream the loudest. They're the megaphones, So they which means, whoever else is helping you, I don't know if it's just you, but with the AndyKaufmanLives.com and all the other stuff, it means that you have to scream a lot less, that other people are kind of broadcasting it on your behalf. And I just have a feeling that those who really matter, I shouldn't say matter, but those who really, the true audience, almost kind of that Andy Kaufman episode where in the beginning he goes, I spent all the money, so you're just going to sit here and watch me just sit here. Here it is. Here we are. That's it. So, and then all of a sudden, a little bit of time passes, and he goes, okay, now that all those people have left, now that the only people who really matter are still here, now let's get on with the show. And I have a feeling it's weird, but that just keeps on happening.
Oh yeah. Slowly, as time goes on, and as people really, a lot of it is just society becoming more sophisticated, because in pop culture, that's what happens. Society becomes more and more sophisticated, a little bit less gullible, and a little more open-minded to things. So yeah, I mean, now is a great time as far as the speed with which people are starting to look into this and question it and saying, hey, maybe there's some truth to it. Where 15 years ago you were a nut, and the audience was so much smaller, because one, in the early days people just remembered Latka, so how dare somebody act like Latka could do something as dark and horrible as fake their death? That made absolutely no sense to the majority of people. And then Man on the Moon came out, and the books came out, and now some people were scratching their heads saying, wait a minute, isn't it bizarre that he was really big into practical jokes, and his stick was putting you on, so maybe could this be the ultimate put on and stuff? But you also had a lot of people that were, I don't know, Man on the Moon, really enamored people toward this cute, semi-retarded character that Jim Carrey played, and this supposedly gorgeous, Lynn Margulies that was played by Courtney Love, and this, stuff. So in a way, I guess what I'm saying is that helped, but also it hurt, because you had so many people that are like, how dare you? Andy was so sweet, and he was so in love with Lynn, and she was so mortified when he died, and I saw him right there on the table getting chemo, and it's like, that was a movie. That was a movie that was, horribly inaccurate if you're going to start nitpicking. I mean, it was talk about creative license. I mean, from beginning to end, the whole thing was just a movie. I mean, it's wonderful in that it's all part of the legacy and all part of the legend, and 50 years from now when it's looked back on, it'll be hilarious that this movie was made about this person, that really wasn't dead, and blah, 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 and all that stuff. But I don't know where I'm going with this, other than just like The Daughter, the movie brought some people in, but it also, strengthened people's reserve that the whole fake death thing is crazy.
What's interesting, because they didn't really even talk that much about the fake death thing. I mean, they kind of slightly hinted at it. There was a part where he goes, what do I do short of faking my own death? I think that's the only time he actually talked about that thing. And then at the end, where they showed a little thing where
Zamuda's in the audience watching.
Yes.
Tony Clifton.
Yes. That was was about it.
Yeah, that was all the movie did, is just a slight tip of the hat. But you got to figure it was made by people just like everybody else in the world. It was made by people who think you really did die. It's cute and cool to think, oh wow, what if he did? But they think he really died. So that's as far as they were going to go with it. Because for the most part, people hate the whole fake death idea. And to me, it's disingenuous to Andy. For people to go on Twitter and wherever they go and say, oh, he was a genius, but then in the next breath say, oh, you people that talk about the fake death, you're such whatevers. And to me, that's hilarious, because it's like, so you think he's a genius, you think what he did was amazing, but you can't comprehend that maybe he pulled this off? You can't comprehend that he escalated his act so far that it's the next step in his act was this huge thing of making the world think he's dead, being the first real celebrity to actually, for once, instead of Tupac and Morrison and Elvis and stuff, but for once there's a celebrity out there that really didn't die. I mean, you think he's a genius, but you don't think he's capable of pulling that off? That's to me, that's bizarre. That's bizarre that people think, oh, he was this amazing put-on artist. He was so dedicated, and he would do this and do that, but he wouldn't fake his death. No, horrible to even talk about that. That's horrible. To me, that's awesomely comical that people do that. I don't know. It's But the big thing, you said something, and I can't remember what it was, that wanted me to remind you or remind everybody that. But the big thing to me is I never trying to convince anybody of anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Johnny Appleseed, and I'm just throwing seeds all over everywhere. And if they grow, they grow. If they don't, they don't. If they stick, they stick. They stick. If people pick them up and throw them in the toilet, I don't care. I mean, that means that's just absolutely nothing to me. As far as I certainly am never trying to beat anybody over the head and convince them of anything, or change their minds or whatever. I'm all about just constant little reminders that hopefully get people thinking and looking and asking and questioning and wondering. Like
Well, they do.
Like I was telling Ian, the guy that we were talking to earlier, the DJ in England. I was telling him the other day, it's like if you knew the world was round, and you absolutely knew it. You didn't just think, you didn't just believe it. You knew you'd flown around it in a plane or a rocket or whatever, and you flat out knew the world was round, and everybody around you thought it was flat. I can understand the desire that people would have to just club everybody over the head and try and convince them, but for whatever reason, I don't have that gene. I don't have that thing in my brain that makes me want to do that. I just like to pass out literature of, hey, I know this for a fact, and I realize you don't believe it, but just kind of maybe take a look at this, maybe read this, maybe think about this for yourself, and whatever happens, happens. If I don't own it. I don't care about what you get out of it, but maybe you'll get something good out of it. Who knows? And that's why you talked about Andy Kaufman Lives. I mean, that's a perfect example. I don't do anything with that. I've shut that sucker down. I mean, I haven't updated it in 3 years, and never will. Yet it still does. It does just as well now as what it used to do, as far as if it makes people wonder and makes people ask and makes people look, then my job is done, I guess. I don't know. I'm rambling.
No, that's good. And one of the things I want to say earlier about the fact that, Kaufman was aware of the idea of the immortality of video living on, which I think is great because that enabled him to be able to bring Zamuda in there as a referee or the audience plant, what have you. And now I don't know if he was thinking about this at the time, but just the idea of years down the line, people looking back and going, putting all those together. So it's like, let's say in one day you start looking at all the YouTube clips of Kaufman stuff, and you start seeing Zamuda popping up and popping up and popping up and popping up, playing all these different characters. Whether it be the lawyer when Kaufman is smashing the big lady's face down in the ground for the Lawler videos, or whether it's Zamuda being the referee, or whether it's Zamuda being the PA on the Kaufman special, or sitting out there in the audience and repeating his act before he even says it.
Oh yeah.
I just think it's brilliant. I just think it's an awesome thing that he enabled that to happen. So now people can look back and they go, oh, okay, that guy was in on it the whole time. Oh my gosh, here he is. Here he is as the referee. Oh my gosh, here he is. Here he is as the PA. And it was just so awesome because back then people didn't have that luxury of being able to look back at all of the the volumes of all this, the Encyclopedia Britannica, so to speak, and go, okay, here we go. Here it is.
Right.
So I thought that was
and I can't speak for him, but in my mind, he knew with the advent of videotape and people being able to have it in their homes and stuff, that was the type of future that people would be able to do that. And you figure everything he did was based on that concept, the idea that people, the audience is later on down the road. You know what I mean? Everything he did, the audience would be later. The audience had to be later. I mean, he was not, in my mind, he was never playing to the audience that was in front of him. It was about the people later on getting it. And not to be mean, but that's what cracks me up when I see online oh, what Patton Oswalt did was pure Andy Kaufman, pure genius. And it's like, no, there's a huge difference, because Andy Kaufman didn't put Zamuda on Merv Griffin as Tony Clifton and then come out a week later and say, look what we did.
Yes.
Never did that. I mean, you go back and you look at everything Andy Kaufman, and people, they enjoy it and they appreciate it, but it's almost like they think that they were in on it from the get-go and that the whole idea was to be in on it, but it wasn't. In Memphis, the whole idea was for those people to genuinely be angry and upset and not understand what he was doing so that the audience later could get it. But you never, ever would hear Andy say, look what I did, wasn't that cool when I made those people mad?
Right.
Wasn't that cool that Zamuda played Clifton? No, to his dying day, whenever that is or was, you're not supposed to know any of that. You're never supposed to see behind the curtain. You're not supposed to know. That takes the fun out of it. That's
yes.
like the magician at the end of the show saying, oh, by the way, and here's how we did the tricks. So when I see somebody pull a prank and then, oh, wasn't that funny? Wasn't that Kaufman-like? It's like, well, it was cute, but it really wasn't, because those people wouldn't, they're not in the same mind frame as far as do something and then let it play out over time and then knowing that the future will get it. And really, when you look at the fake death, that's what that's all about. It's not about us now. It's not about people 10 years ago. It's not about people 20 years ago. Right now, we're the people who don't believe he did it, the people who genuinely think he's dead. We're like the crowd at Memphis. We're like the audience. We're not the audience isn't a good word, but we're not the ones who are supposed to be getting it. The people 50 years from now are going to be looking back at us and laughing at us. That's the audience. The audience is
right.
People down the road that are thinking, wait a minute, so you mean he was really alive and he was there and he was doing this stuff and nobody went looking for him or nobody figured him out and they got into fights over the fact that they insisted he was dead, and the audience will be later in his stuff. The majority of it, that's the whole concept, is the audience will be later. That's
yes.
the put on. A put on is not a put on if you put somebody on and then 5 minutes later say, wasn't it funny I put you on. A put on, the ultimate put on, is when you put it on and they walk away scratching their heads and they don't know and they're confused. That's the real put on. And then if 20 years from now people can look back and laugh at it, then that's a put on, it's like the Len thing, the Bigfoot footage. Okay, is that him? Is that not him? Is that a put on? Is it not a put on? Or is it a double reverse switch put on? Is it now everybody's going, oh, okay, so it wasn't really real. Well, maybe it was real, and now 20 years from now people are going to go, well, wait a minute, why didn't you look into it further, and why didn't you, that's the entertainment. That's what makes it entertaining.
Yes. It's definitely a very patient art form, and also one that challenges the ego, and also one that, because it really definitely has to come down to quality versus quantity. Those who, are kind of, I don't want to say in on it, they're willing to be quiet about it and willing to appreciate it, and it's kind of like, how should I put it? It's almost like letting others reveal it for you rather than revealing it. It's like, okay, like you were saying with let's say you make an elephant disappear. Well, after the show, I'm not going to tell everybody how that elephant disappears. It's much more exciting if, like, first of all, if they actually ever figured out themselves, or better yet, if it's a Santa Claus kind of thing where they actually believe that elephant disappeared.
Right. And a lot of it is the audience is part of it. The audience is part of the show, and everybody's reaction is part of it. It's like, if somebody's cussing me out on Twitter, it's not like I've got some kind of amazing defense mechanism where that doesn't bother me. It genuinely doesn't bother me because that's part of the show. That's part of it. That's everybody's invited to be part of everything. The what made Bob Zamuda going on Merv Griffin as Tony Clifton funny is because, I don't know, because of everything, because of how people looked at it then, how people look at it now, how people look at it 50 years from now. It's like, it's this magical thing that everybody can participate in and treat it however they want to treat it and look at it however they want to treat it. And, there's people to this day who don't really know what's going on with it, but 20 years from now they'll have they'll understand. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm real quick. I'm trying to. I just now looked at my Twitter and I noticed that John. How do you pronounce him? Krauser. John Krauser.
Krausner. Yeah, the guy that's going to the hospital.
Yeah, he says he's back. He's watching and he wants to be invited. Oh wait, hold on. I think I found him. Hopefully he's still watching. I got him. Ideally, we got him.
Or Jack.
But, yeah, Jack. Do you have audio?
Is that a freeze that we're looking at right now? I can't tell. That might be a freeze. He's not moving. Matter of fact, he might be dead. Maybe Jack faked. I think Jack faked his death.
I think Jack just faked his death on the air. I think this is phenomenal. Whoops.
Oh, he left the call.
Uh-oh. There you go. There you go.
So John's trying to get in?
I think so. I invited him. I just now noticed it and it said he did that 21 minutes ago. I didn't realize that I have to send invites in order for people to... hold on, let me send a little message to him just so he knows. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about the okay, so I just sent it. Okay, so he should get the invite at this point. I mean, I could just send it.
Well, John, if you're out there, keep clicking and pushing and clicking and hitting and accepting and agreeing and clicking, and maybe like me, it'll take you about a half hour, but you'll somehow all of a sudden pop in and...
There he is. Okay, let's see. Let me invite him again. Throw out a couple of invites. Okay, so one of the things I want to ask you was whatever his current name is, the artist formerly known as Andy Kaufman. What kind of things is he doing to like? Is he still playing guitar? Is he still creating art in some fashion?
I have no idea. And that's the funny thing. Nobody really does. I started talking about this a while back. The name Nathan McCoy is used because that was the alias that was being used at the time.
Right.
But no one outside of Andy and the man we're calling Nathan McCoy knew Nathan McCoy's real identity. I don't know if you picked up on that or grasped that, or how many people out there have really grasped the importance of that. Nobody knew the actual identity of that man. So that's, if you think about it, that goes a long way to speaking to why nobody's outed him or why nobody's done this or that. When he traded identities with a person that nobody knows who they were. You get what I'm saying? So in other words, when Andy walked away from that situation, nobody knew who he was, where he was going, or had the first clue of how to track him down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So because the man we call Nathan McCoy's identity was absolutely positively a secret, that put total control in Andy's hands as far as once he left, he's gone. And you see it in the Death of Andy Kaufman video where Chris is interviewing Chris Maloney is interviewing. He's interviewing Michael, and Michael said he's gone. He's been gone for a long time. When you watch that, what he's saying is what I'm talking about right now. He's gone. I mean, he is that much of an asshole that he disappeared without a trace. As far as they can't find him, they can't turn him in, they can't, call the FBI and say, I want to give you this information, because there's nothing. They have nothing to go on. They have nothing to give them, the authorities, because they don't know who he is or where he is. Once he was gone, he was gone. You know what I mean?
Right. So, okay, so then Randy,
I could not tell you.
When you said Randy, was that just smoke? Was that like part of the what do you call it? The misdirection?
Yeah. Smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. Yeah. I mean, the truth, the absolute truth is, I have no idea, none, what his name was post May 16th, 1984. I have no idea, the man that we call Nathan McCoy, what his name was. I only know what I've been told as far as he was an orphan. He spent time in an orphanage somewhere in the Midwest, that right after he left the orphanage, he was drafted into the war of Vietnam. Things like that I know, but I have no idea even what state he's from or where he came from. And Michael and Lynn and Stanley and Janice and Linda, they have no idea that man's identity. And that's the way Andy wanted it, because what Andy was able to do once he took, they traded identification and they traded lives, he was able to walk away free with a new life that nobody knew and had no way of tracking down. So he's in total control. Let's say he visits Michael, or let's say he's talked to Michael. He's in complete control of the situation because it's on his terms, it's on whatever he wants, and he walks away and he's gone. I'm not saying he has or hasn't done that, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's a huge part of the puzzle that I don't think most people have ever, I went ahead and started talking about it because nobody was ever even theorizing on it that I could see. And people, as the audience becomes more and more savvy and stuff to what's going on, to me it's like, well, you need to tell them stuff like that. When people are saying, well, wait a minute, why didn't they just, after about a year of this, why didn't they just, have him arrested, or why didn't they have him committed, or and that's because they didn't know who to look for. They didn't know where to go, and they didn't know where he was. They know nothing. He's gone. He got in a van and traveling the country and hanging out in New Orleans and living the life. And I've used the name Fetch. That's a nickname, but that's not a name. That's nothing you could give the police and say, hey, go find Fetch.
Right. At what point did you realize that was his nickname, his new nickname? Or his new name, or whatever? Well,
I mean, Fetch used to come around Dad's house, Sam's house, but that's all he ever was Fetch. He certainly never, ever claimed to be Andy Kaufman. As I've said before, I think I was telling John this, and I've said it online, so it's not anything really new. He used sign language just like Sam did. Him and Dad would sit in the yard and talk for hours, sign language.
Wow.
He would crash at our house, and then he would be gone, and he would get in the van and go, and then a month later, boom, I'd come home from school and the van would be outside, which meant Fetch was there. But who Fetch was, no clue. I certainly wouldn't go through his pockets when he was sleeping and try and find his wallet, or write down his license plate number or anything like that, just because you don't do that type of thing.
How did you end up? How did you end up finding out that Fetch was the? How'd you end up finding out that Andy Kaufman was his former name?
Well, I'm not saying it was or wasn't, and I'm not saying that it wasn't blaringly obvious, who he was from the get-go. You know what I mean? Andy Kaufman's gone and dead, and there's Fetch. It's one of those things it's obvious, but you don't talk about it.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So you just kind of put two and two together and figured out that this man looks like, because you were saying before that you weren't much of an Andy Kaufman fan, growing up. You didn't watch Taxi or any of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I think that would shock a lot of people. I'm still really not. I know I'm supposed to be the world's biggest Andy Kaufman fan, but I'm really not. I'm not that into him. I'm not that into what he did. I'm not into, I don't know. I'm just not that into him. I think some of the stuff he did was cool, and I think some of the motivation behind some of the things he did was cool, but I also think a lot of it was, I don't know, I'm just not that impressed. I mean, I'm going to be terrible for about 30 seconds here and say he wasn't a good actor. I think he was a mediocre performer. I don't think he was overly talented. He had a okay singing voice. He could act if he was in a character like this, something like this, like he could do a character. But that's not, he wasn't going to go very far. He wasn't a Jerry Seinfeld. He wasn't going to make it in movies, not unless it was playing Armageddon T. Thunderbird or another Lodka. I mean, so he wasn't an actor. He wasn't he was a mediocre singer. His Elvis, everybody says, oh, spot on, dead Elvis. But no, I mean, it was cute that he did the thing where it was, the foreign guy, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's Elvis, and then it's back to the foreign guy. It's a put on. But to say it was a killer Elvis, I know people are spinning their graves right now, but it wasn't. You look at all the Elvis imitators out there, and it was like his Elvis, it was cute, but it wasn't, oh my God. And so right about now, everybody's screaming at the TV going, well, wait a minute, he was Elvis's favorite, blah, 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 blah. Well, Elvis thought the star turn was funny. He thought it was funny that he went up there and did the bad jokes, and then he did Elvis, and then he went back. I mean, he saw the humor in that. He saw the humor in the put on and confusing people. But, I hardly think Elvis thought Andy was an awesome Elvis impersonator, because in my mind he wasn't. He was mediocre. And because of that, his career as an entertainer had a shelf life. I mean, it was only going to last so long. The put on is only going to last so long, and in the beginning you do the put on and you're a novelty, but then eventually the audience catches on, and there's only so much you can do. Just like the line we were talking about from Man on the Moon, it's gotten to the point where unless I yell fire in a crowded theater or fake my death, there's nothing else I can do. Well, that's because the put on has a shelf life. Eventually the audience is coming to the show to see what kind of put on you're going to do next, and then it just becomes this contrived garbage. Oh, I'm going to bring a washing machine on stage, and I'm gonna bring a dog up here on stage, and I'm gonna feed him, and I mean, that can only go on so much to where it's not entertaining anymore, and he knew that, and he knew he could only go so far as an actor, and he could only go so far as an entertainer, and the put on, you just can't keep doing that. You can't keep being the annoying kid. You can't keep being the boy who cried wolf. You can only do so much. So realistically, it's funny that people don't see this. The next thing he had to do to be the legend and the immortal person that he wanted to be was let his career go into the free fall that he did and kind of control it the way he did. The fact that he did Blassie, a college project, was very intentional, and you know, he burned out his own career because he knew there was nowhere else he could go. But the next thing is the ultimate, which is the fake death. You know, I mean, that was the natural progression. You can only go on stage and be a put-on artist for so long. It's not like Penn and Teller, who can keep coming up over and over and over with these more dazzling, huger, bigger, larger things that can dazzle. You know, if you're going to go up there and put on the audience, it's going to run out. It's going to run out of steam. The great thing he did Foreign Man, turning into Elvis and back to Foreign Man. It's like, whoa, that's wild, that's weird. Is that guy really foreign? Okay, the next great thing he did, Tony Clifton. Boom, he pretended to be this character, then passed it on to Bob. It was very intentional. It wasn't like he was, oh, I'm tired of playing Tony Clifton. That was the bit. The bit was he passed it on to Bob so that he could be one place and Tony could be another. That the fact that Merv Griffin has got Tony on there going, ha, folks, this is really Andy Kaufman, when it's not, that's hilarious. But you can only do that so much. And then so now, when you know, the death thing is the next big step after the Tony Clifton. It's a new character. It's dead guy. You know, I mean, it's dead celebrity. That's the character, dead man. And so now, just like Tony Clifton, that you know, 20 years later or 15 years later in Man on the Moon or whatever, oh, everybody's starting to realize, oh, wow, so he wasn't Tony Clifton and it was really Bob Zmuda and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, now I'm rambling.
I need to log out of this so it can filter me.
Oh, hang on.
I can't log out.
Hang on a second, I got to answer a computer question. You go up to where it says there and you go sign out. And so now I'm signed out.
Okay. And then I can log out.
Okay. And if you can't get in, let me know and I'll trade you. I'll give you the iPad. And then I'll go up to the laptop. Oh, okay, yeah, I just pissed a lot of people off, didn't I? I just spent the last 10 minutes saying I didn't think he was all that great. And what's amazing, and this is just, I love this, you know, if I'm going to say that, it's like, well, then how did he get where he got? Well, he got where he got because of just a lucky, perfect timing type situation where his father, yeah, I don't know. I'm getting into this whole big mess now that I shouldn't be getting into, but he was forced upon the business, and it just at the perfect time, and it worked out. Normally, a guy couldn't have got up on stage at the Comedy Store and tricked the audience and done the put on, and wound up being the level of celebrity he was. His father's relationship with Sam Denoff was one of the writers on the Dick Van Dyke Show. You know, basically, Stanley's calling in favors with Sam. Sam hooks him up with Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner hooks him up with George Shapiro. George Shapiro, who gets a kick out of, you know, the avant-garde and things that are crazy, takes him to levels and places where realistically he didn't necessarily belong, and that's the magic of it. That's, you know what I mean? It's like the rich girl at the ball brought her greaser boyfriend to the big family wealthy dinner. Now I'm getting off on a tangent, but anyway.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I mean, especially like what's great is hearing your side of things and matching it up with the stuff that I've read, and that's what's really exciting to me. So,
now, do I think he's immortal? Do I think he's legendary? Do I think he deserves immortality? Sure. That's why I do what I can to help him be the next Jesus or the next Elvis or whatever. And I'm just playing a little part. He's gonna pull that off, not because of me, but I'm gonna help. You know, I'm gonna help that along, and that's his ultimate goal. But if you're gonna ask me point blank what I thought of him and what he did, you know, I got to be honest. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of what he did to his family. I'm not a big fan of what he did to other people. But, you know, to accomplish what he wants to accomplish, that's what he had to do. But to say I like the guy, believe it or not, I can't say, you know, that I'm crazy about him. So, but
Do you
anyway.
know? Do you know if he has the internet? Does he watch this stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't really know. Or
So
I don't know.
well, so he doesn't know that you've been like for the past since. I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I think I want to believe I came across AndyKaufmanLives.com in 2000, but I almost want to say that it didn't pop up till like 2003 or something.
Well, yeah, I was doing stuff on the internet, different Andy Kaufman websites and stuff through different hosts and things, but it wasn't until it was August of '03 that I bought AndyKaufmanLives.com and actually started that. So there's all kinds of stuff before that, going back to the mid '90s. Even before that, like the early '90s, where I was doing stuff on CompuServe and AOL and all that stuff. But the actual AndyKaufmanLives.com, that URL, and buying that and using that was August of 2003. So it's a little over like 11 years, coming up on 11 years, 10 and a half years, something, 11 years.
So is he aware of of the immense amount of, well, first of all, time that you put into this, and then the people who you've been able to gather together who've just kind of magnetized to the fascination of this thing? Is he aware of, that there's this progress being made?
I don't know, and I can't really give you any kind of answer to that. So, because then that speaks to whether or not I think he's still around. That speaks to whether or not what I think he's doing, and blah 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 blah. And I can't really, I don't have a good answer for that. So I'm not going to stall around or drag it out too long. I don't have an answer for it. So.
Because I would think if he knew that you were like helping in such a major way to help keep him immortal, to turn him into like a, someone like, let's say, James Dean or Marilyn Monroe, one of those kind of legendary folks. I would hope that he would appreciate it, and recognize it and go,
But see, even they will fizzle eventually. I mean, right now, if you go searching around for stuff and try and figure out who's talking about Lou Costello, it's probably minimal. If you go Google Lou Costello, or if you go look on Twitter for Lou Costello, I'm guessing it's minimal how many people, even though the man was a genius, it's minimal how many people are talking about him. James Dean, huge. Marilyn Monroe, huge. But 50 years from now, it's they're gonna dwindle. I mean, Elvis is gonna dwindle with time. Andy's goal is, like I said, to be more along the lines of a Jesus, in that it's going to grow and it's going to continue, hopefully, forever.
I would hope that he would, knowing that you're doing what you're doing, I would hope that he would appreciate, or at least notice some of the, I would call it progress that you've made, and the people you've gotten to be able to be involved with this stuff. I mean, each one of us is out there, telling people about this stuff, and I would like to believe that. I mean, if I were in his shoes and I knew that someone was like working that hard at keeping my name out there and keeping my memory alive, I would like to believe that I'd give him some compliments or some sort of cheerleading.
I could joke and say, well, he pays me, but not enough. But then that would probably get misconstrued and taken out of context and whatever. That's a joke. I'm joking. No, I get what you're saying. You got to remember, that's not. I don't know. That's not how I operate. As far as I don't have that gene, I don't have that thing in my brain that would really be concerned about that or put any value on that. And I don't really have a good answer for that. But I understand where you're coming from, and yes, in normal circumstances, certainly you would think that. You would think that if somebody, if Dick Van Dyke has some Uber fan out there that runs the Dick Van Dyke fan site and just dedicates all this and all that. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from as well. I certainly hope Dick Van Dyke, if he's aware of that, I hope he appreciates that. But this is the whole. Whoa, that was weird. That's bizarre.
What?
Is that like a phone?
Oh, you hear my phone? But there's no ring to it. It's actually my mom.
But it's vibrating, and it's the vibration is being picked up by the mic, I'm guessing.
Oh, that's crazy.
No big deal. It was just funny because it sounded like a cow mooing or something.
That's crazy. Oh, it was sitting on my laptop. Maybe that had something to do with it.
But anyway, yeah. I mean, I do understand what you're saying, and like I said, with Dick Van Dyke, and hopefully if he's aware of an Uber fan, then blah 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 blah. But this is a whole other thing, and you can't really slot any of this in that type of category and look at it that way. So all I can say is I appreciate what you're saying, but it's a whole, it's a whole other thing. It's in the end, it's just tireless stuff that we both matter and don't matter all at the same time. We're all very important to this, and simultaneously we're not important to it. It's like life. Every single person is super important and just as important as the next person. Nobody's more important than another, and really that's what it's all about. So you can't, if I was a doctor and I sat back and rested on my laurels and say, okay, well, I healed so many people today. That's such a great thing. Well, what if I healed a guy who 10 years from now is going to go out and, shoot up a mall and kill 50 people? You know what I mean? In other words, we're all important. Everybody's important. You stopped at a stoplight today, or you went and you bought a candy bar today, and that prevented somebody else from getting in an accident. You'll never know that, but everybody is super important in this whole web of things that go on in the world. And it's, in my mind, none of it is predestined, and none of it is, whatever. It's all just this magical flow of we all affect, everything you did today affects countless people that you'll never know about.
Right.
Every move you made today affects other people, and then those other people are affected by other people.
Yes.
And the ripple effect of that. I mean, just think about the infinite number of people who you could thank for being on this planet. It's infinite, because you could, what I mean, everybody from the guy who cussed your dad out and he went home and had sex with your mom. I mean, everybody from the mailman to the guy who, told your dad he wasn't good enough to be on the basketball team, so his life went a whole other direction. And it's not even those big things. It's everything. Every single thing that happens in everybody's life is super important and affects just countless people. So, when you live that way and you think like that, you don't ever really take the time to wonder, oh, did somebody appreciate that I did that? Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I understand it, but you don't bother yourself with that,
Right. And I'm not saying, and I hope, let's see, hopefully, I have a feeling that what I said was coming across in the way of...
No, see, I understood exactly what you're saying, and I appreciate it, and I agree, and I know what you're saying. I just wanted to use that as a second to kind of be on a soapbox, but no, I know what you're saying, and it makes sense, I mean, perfect example, what you do, your involvement, and of course, countless people appreciate it. They appreciate what you do, but to me, appreciation is, yeah, it's cool that, somebody would say, hey, it's great that you do that, and a pat on the back's nice, but if you just step back and think, just if somebody was affected or somebody, uh-oh, I'm hearing Jack. Jack, I thought I heard you. He froze again. Jack, I heard hello, hello. And now he's frozen again.
Chat.
He's probably ready to hunt me down and smack me upside the head for picking on Andy. And I would too. I would. I would smack me upside the head for the things I said about him. Because I will be the first to say, yes, he's immortal, and yes, he's legendary, and he will be someone who is remembered hopefully 1,000 years from now, and will be looked back on as almost a deity. But I'm being blunt as far as, just pure talent and that, yeah. But that's not a bad thing. That's just a reality. That's an opinion. But I guess that's why I was kind of trying to answer the question more of, okay, this person shows up at our house and, it's like, oh my God, this is him and he's supposed to be dead, and oh my God, he's a celebrity, and I'm being dramatic,
Check the
obviously.
chat.
Whoa. Thought I heard something. Chat? I see the word chat.
Oh, he typed something.
Cat.
Okay, so he wanted to know, and I asked you this earlier, Stephen, but I'm just gonna say what he said here. What's the book you sent to CMG, Stephen? Sorry if this has already been discussed. Sent chat message. So I'm gonna call back my mom real quick while you answer that question, because she just called me for Mother's Day, so I figure I'm gonna.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't really have a good answer for that. Well, I'll be honest. It's something I'm proposing to CMG that they will then propose to the Kaufman family, because I don't speak directly to the Kaufman estate. I speak to the estate through CMG, and that was something I proposed to them. I've proposed a number of things, and I just kind of felt ornery that day, and actually what I did is I highlighted part of the proposal and put it on Twitter. So there's the implication that I sent them something, but really what I sent them was a proposal for an idea. So that's more of the Bob Zamuda type bullshit that I'm never proud of, but that's just the way it is. It's called double talk and misdirection, and if you get mad at me, I'm sorry, but it's kind of like the magician. You get mad at the magician, but he's just up there doing his job and doing what he does, and that's what I do. And so hopefully that answered your question. No, there isn't a book. No, it's not something that I've sent to them. It was a concept proposal that I sent to CMG that I wanted to pass along to the estate to see what they thought. My concept is, it's called the Book of Kaufman or the Book of Andy, and it's a combination of journals written before and after his death, and most likely they're not dated, so it's confusing on what was before and what was after. Maybe some of the things are expunged that would kind of date it, so there's some confusion, but it's just an idea. It was just one of a lot of ideas, like the TV show, the show that never ends. Episode 1 begins and then it never ever ends. It just runs forever and ever and ever. Self-funding, self-perpetuating television show that lasts forever, and that's about it. I don't know. We're watching Curt talk to his mom on Mother's Day, and I feel bad because, well, I don't feel bad, but I guess I should say I feel bad because that's something people say. So you didn't cut her short, did you?
Who, my mom?
Yeah.
No, I actually talked to the answer machine. I talked to her voicemail.
Oh, okay.
So I told her I'd get back to her probably in an hour or less.
Okay. I was gonna say, don't let this nonsense keep you from talking to your mother. She'll be dead someday.
Yes.
And that's morbid but true. So certainly don't let silly internet gibberish keep you from talking to your mom on Mother's Day. Unless you hate her guts, and then do whatever you want. That's fine.
No, I left a message for her, so
cool.
So she knows.
Diane is actually doing a Google Hangout right now with her son. That's why she came in and said, "Okay, goddammit, where's your laptop?" She wasn't. She was tired of waiting for the iPad. She is in there talking to her son
Well, that's
Jeremy.
great. Thank you, by the way, Stephen, for honestly for deciding to talk with us and giving us this information once again. I mean, it's just, to me, this whole
Okay.
thing has been like just a huge, very entertaining for me, and it's taught me a lot. So thank you
And
for
that's
being a really great teacher.
the thing. Always remember, it's entertainment. It's it's whether it frustrates you or angers you or makes you sad or pisses you off or whatever. It's in the end, it's a show. It's entertainment. It's it's Penn and Teller. It's a magician. It's a magic act. It's fun and when you're frustrated, realize that's the fun part of it is it's frustrating you.
Yeah.
If it was just simple, you could turn on the Bozo show and watch it, which I do love Bozo, so I don't want to slam on the Bozo, but that was the first thing that popped into my mind. You could buy a bowl of fish and sit and stare at it if you wanted entertainment that didn't frustrate you. But it's I would like to think in the case of Andy, it was always done. Everything he did was done with heart, as far as it was sincere. And that's where I've always felt that there's a huge difference between Andy and Zamuda. Not that there's anything wrong with Zamuda, but Andy was just, everything was done on a very sincere level and from the heart, and truly, genuinely wanted people to be entertained and affected. And I know you hear all the lines, the cliches. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm not a comedian. I'm a blah, whatever they say," and and this and that. But it's, I mean, it really, really, really is true. If he got up, if he was on the street and he got up and acted like a bum and started yelling at people and stuff, it wasn't. It was done. It was done for entertainment. It was done, I don't know. Now I'm on my soapbox, and I don't like being on a soapbox. But anyway, I think you know what I mean.
Yeah. And Stephen, by you saying that you're on a soapbox or stopping yourself, I mean, I think what you have to say is just as valid as what anybody else has to say. And
Yeah.
I'd much rather hear what you have to say than what I'm reading in a
One
book,
more
to be
question.
honest with you.
Oh boy, here we go. Jack said something. He just,
Jack?
one more question. He held up the word chat, so he's probably got another question in the chat.
Okay. He goes, isn't it strange that they changed the book description, Bob and Lynn's? At first it was a farewell to Andy Kaufman. Now, Zamuda claims to know when Andy will resurface.
Yeah, I don't know. I never put like too many brain cells towards anything they're doing, just because, once again, it's always shtick, and it's always for the bigger purpose of entertaining everybody. So, I don't know. I mean, it's like if you happen to notice a tweet of mine pop up, and then a minute later it disappears, and then it pops up again. That's because I'm editing. I mean, that's that's what people do. At least that's what I do. Is I'm a born editor. I'm always editing. I'm always thinking, oh, I could have done that better. So I'm retracting something and then rewording it and then putting it back up again. And whenever I put these videos up, or whatever, once they're up there, if they've been up there for any length of time, I can't watch them without being frustrated at the things that I want to correct and change. And that may be all it is they wanted to update the description, or they got a better idea to do something, or it's like the video that's up on Andy Kaufman Lives, the video with Lynn and the clips from Running Man and stuff. If I watch that, all I see are the things that I wish I could have done differently, or I wish I had changed, or the audio edits where it's too hard of an edit and I wish I'd put a dissolve there, and I mean, that kind of stuff. So maybe that's all it was. Maybe they weren't trying to be anything mystical, or maybe the description was written way before Stanley died, and now that Stanley's dead, this is all part of maybe they've added a couple chapters to the book and added some more racy things because they don't have that iron fist of Stanley over them, where they they know if they breathe the wrong way, they're going to get sued. So I don't know. I could only speculate, but that's all it is speculation. I don't even know when the book's coming out. I can't wait till it comes out, but I don't know when it's coming out.
I wanted to ask you, if I were to, I know that Lynn has been kind of fun and playful with some of the, in the various forums and whatnot. What do you suppose she would say if I asked her who she thought you were, or what kind of participation you had and what was going on? What do you suppose she would say?
I have no idea. My first knee-jerk reaction is that she would call me an Uber fan. I really don't know. I used to communicate with her back when I, had the Claire Chanel character going, and she always stuck with Claire as far as Lynn specifically talked to Claire and nobody else, as far as, it was the Claire character that she interacted with.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been years since I've had any kind of interaction with her and the Claire character. I don't know. I really don't know.
So it seems to me that, throughout this time, because you've been, to me, it seems the story has not necessarily changed. Little bits and pieces of little elements and whatnot, the misdirection here and there, but it seems to me that, like, the story of what's been going on is stuck to the main story, that, that he faked his death, and there were some people involved and everything like that. Let's see, how do I explain it? Okay, her coming in, being a part of the jokes and everything. I should say, being a part of, joking along with the let's say the forum, or waving awake, or whatever the heck else she would jokingly, like, participate.
Right. And she shows up on Twitter. She's some of these. She's around. She's still around on Twitter. You brought up a blog or something a while back that I'm 99% sure is her. Found in the Funhouse. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that she's got her hands in. I think it was more in the past than not so much in the last few years, now that she's married and off in Oregon or wherever she is and living that life. I don't think she's doing as much, but yeah, she's always been around playing along, and that's what makes it really amusing when people say, oh, be careful, you don't want to hurt her feelings, and oh, be careful, this has to be tough on her and stuff, and it's like, man, if you knew that the stuff she's done and the characters she's playing and what she's done to continue the myth and the legend and the whatever. I'm sorry, go ahead. What was your question?
Well, I was going to ask you, a couple of things. Well, first of all, how do you know what characters she's playing? Does she give you clues that lead you to believe, like, okay, this is definitely her? Is it like a little wink, like, okay, this is only like a little inside joke that we would know about, kind of thing?
No. Okay, this is going to sound real conceited, but I could hem and haw around and try and be humble, but I'm not going to. And I think it has a lot to do with the way I was raised with Sam and sign language, and I never bothered to learn sign language. I have, even when I try to be not humble, I can't be not humble. No, I'm kidding. I'm very humble. I have the ability to spot patterns, and I don't know if it's all that spectacular or all that much better than other people's, but it's something I'm aware of, that I can spot patterns, I can spot things that have allowed me to figure stuff like that out. So in other words, I can see in posts and tweets and stuff things that to me give away who somebody is. If somebody's trying to be phony or trying to be a character, it doesn't take me very long to get a pretty good idea who it is, because I can see odd patterns that aren't necessarily, something that you would just pick up on a normal basis. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes. And I don't think you should give. You don't even have to give any sort of disclaimer to that. I don't think that's your boasting or trying to be, you know,
Yeah.
to me, I don't feel like you're coming from an egotistical point of view by saying stuff.
And not only that, it's like I'm well aware that that we all think that to a certain extent. It's like, okay, well, somebody says, oh, I can size somebody up in the first few minutes and this and that, but the reality is, I've always had that ability to I have pretty good luck. I'm not perfect, but I have pretty good luck, like reading body language, um, sizing someone up, like in an interview. I've been in business off and on for years and interviewed lots and lots of people and had to hire people and work with people and manage people and all these different things. And I've had pretty good luck and I have a pretty good track record at being able to size situations up quickly, size people up quickly, pick up on body language, pick up on mannerisms, pick up on speech patterns, pick up on things that may not be as obvious to other people right away. And I don't want to say it's and I do think a lot of it is just being raised the way I was raised with Sam and stuff, that it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My point being, that's why usually if Lynn shows up, there's nothing specific other than I just know. I mean, I know there's telltale signs in what they do and what they say and how they, who they are and if they're trying not to be obvious, I can pick up on the attempts they're making to not be obvious. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then there's other simple things that are just a dead giveaway, just minor detective work. Well, like if somebody creates a new Twitter account, really all you got to do is go see who they started following right away.
Yes.
Simple things like that.
Yes.
You don't even need speech patterns to pick up on that kind of stuff. So it's like if I get a new antagonist, somebody that's really coming at me, I'll go look at who they're following, and it's like, well, duh, I can spot right away who you are just from who you're following, or the type of things you're saying, or the fact that you're trying hard not to make it look like you. In my mind, is a dead giveaway that it is you. But and I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect, but I have pretty good luck with that, and I give all that credit to Sam, to my dad, the way he raised me. But so and that's why I make comments like I'm 90% sure, I'm 99% sure. I can't say for a fact, but there, I can usually figure out who's who pretty quickly, and I can figure her out pretty quickly, and so I don't know.
So with her joking around and kind of playing around, do you think that she's kind of in the times that she's played around with any of the forums or any of that stuff like that with Claire, do you think that she was sort of utilizing those characters as a way to live vicariously through them, since she herself couldn't actually say the truth?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I think first and foremost, and this is just an opinion, she gets a kick out of it. I mean, this is very much. I mean, that's why she hung around with Andy. That's her personality. She loves the put on. She loves messing with people. She loves saying screw you to authority. She has that rebel. So very much so. This is an outlet for her to say things that she can't, as Lynn Margulies, say, or to do things. And beyond her own satisfaction and her own ego, it's also important to her to help perpetuate the Andy thing, the Andy myth, his legendary status, his want to be Jesus someday. That's got a lot of it too, and that's why Andy left his belongings to her, and why she has all the tapes and she had all the journals, and she had the responsibility of putting together the wrestling movie, which was huge. I mean, we take all that stuff for granted right now, but the wrestling movie was huge. From Hollywood was huge because it compiled everything together, which needed to be done. Now today with YouTube, hope people would be saying, "Oh, there's the Lawler fight," and "Oh, here's footage of him wrestling," and they would be putting it together themselves. But what she did was huge, as far as she got everything together, and her and or whatever his name is, made a cohesive package with that movie that gave you the whole wrestling story. and you know, I don't even know why I was going down that road, other than, you know, that was what she was charged as far as her job, you know, or orders from Andy, to do that. You know, that was a request, and you know, several people have that, you know, been given those directions as far as it's their responsibility to carry on his legacy and to do it in the best Andy Kaufman style they can understand, which is, you know, in their minds, is to drag it out, you know, because people are always second guessing, well, how would Andy do it? How would he do it? Would he do it right away, or would he wait, or would he do this or do that? And they're trying to do their best Andy, um, um, which, like I said, is why a lot of that stuff. It's why nothing, like I was talking about earlier, where I don't think anything major is going to happen for the 30th anniversary. Now, I think there'll be a lot of talk, and there's going to be a lot of internet chatter, and there's going to be news stories, and that's because, of course, that kind of stuff happens whenever there's a big anniversary like this. But I don't think, other than the book and possibly the book coming out, you know, there's not going to be a House of Blues show. There's not going to be a big Clifton show. I don't think. There's not going to be any big announcement from the Kaufman estate. There's not really going to be much of anything. And that's because, and this is just an opinion, I think those people, Michael and Lynn and Bob, are trying to figure out how to do it the way Andy must want it done. And, you know what I mean? And I think when people scratch their heads and go, let's see, how would Andy want this done? Well, he'd want it in the form of a put-on, and he'd want us to irritate people, so we won't put it out, or we won't do something. You know, the people who could be putting on big shows right now for the 30th anniversary are going, aha, that's just what the audience wants. So I'm going to be my best little Andy Kaufman soldier, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to resist the temptation to do something like that, and I'm not going to do anything big. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And
Oh, go on. Well, I was going to ask you. So in the past, it's been implied that there's a sort of a rift between, like, let's say, Zamuda and Lynn versus the family, the estate. Was Stanley the one who kind of put that ditch between them? Is it just a seemingly? Is it something that just seems that way? Is it actually that way? Are they actually working together? What are your thoughts?
No, as far as I know, and I can't say any of this for certain, but as far as I know, no, Stanley was not a Zamuda fan. Stanley was not a Lynn fan. And it was very strained when the revealed book was being written. And I would like to say those are for the obvious reasons. I mean, who had the most to lose in all of this, in his mind? And that would be Stanley. Stanley, let's say you believe the fake death and you believe the way it supposedly happened, and he was forced into a situation against his will to sign the death certificate. You know, that's a really pissed off, angry man. You know what I mean? And a very wealthy man who has a lot to lose in reputation and all these different things. So I think if you believe all that, it's fair to say he saw Zamuda as the enemy. Not only the possible bitter feelings that you turned my kind, gentle son into this person who would reach these heights to the point where they do. In other words, blame Zamuda for Andy getting to the point where he would actually do something like fake his death. Plus, if you believe everything that went on, an anger at Zamuda, at how Zamuda was very calculating in keeping himself out of it, keeping his hands clean. You know what I mean? You know, Zamuda was not in on it, and he was not in on it by choice and by design. So now he knows the truth, but he wasn't involved in the truth. And so now if you picture, if all this is true, how Stanley must have felt about Zamuda. he felt like Zamuda was walking around with a knife ready to stab him in the back at any moment. So he was, very ready to sue Zamuda at any moment for anything, or somehow stop him. I think if you believe the scenario, you have to look at it and say, one, Stanley disliked Zamuda for what he thought he did to his son, and two, Stanley did not trust Zamuda and to a certain extent feared him. So to say there was a rift or there was a wedge or whatever, yeah, I would say it was huge. And you can watch a couple clips I've got online on Puzzlementary where Zamuda says Stanley hated him. Stanley Kaufman hated Bob Zamuda. And
Yes,
hated
I saw
Lynn.
those. He and Lynn were at the, I don't know what show it was, but there's an audience there. I remember seeing those two clips.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought that was just a joke, kind of like, oh yeah, he hates us, but
No, it's
oh,
not.
he say that kind of stuff all the time, but it actually seems like he
Oh yeah.
did not.
There was no love lost there. It was because you figure Lynn and Stanley are in the same boat. They both can go to jail. Well, Bob kept himself on the outside, so that made it even, created even more of a wedge between Bob and Stanley. I know. At one point he was going to sue him. He started a lawsuit, I think. I don't even want to talk about this because I don't remember the details, but Stanley started a lawsuit against Zamuda in the in the late 90s. It was in the very early stages of the book, and it was related to the book, but I don't really remember any details about it. But yeah. And once again, Stanley on paper had the most to lose, and now that he's gone, for the 100th time I'll say it was a game changer when he died. Now that doesn't mean somebody named Andy Kaufman is going to come walking out of and say, ta-da, here I am. That's never going to happen. But it definitely is affecting the way people treat this. Michael, Zamuda, Lynn, me, Did I lose you?
No.
Okay.
This is just fascinating to me. I want to ask you, how's your health these days? How are you doing?
Okay. I off and on I'll do like physical labor jobs to try and keep my health up, and I've had some trouble here recently with my stamina and how I feel and problems with my feet to where I'm not doing anything, and that's a vicious circle because if I take some time off from doing anything active to try and heal, the flip side of that is I'm not being active and I'm not, so I'm okay. I'm not great, but I'm okay. So I don't know, but I don't have a good answer. I don't have a good answer. Sorry.
I know that you like to play instruments and stuff. I mean, after all, earlier on we saw your I don't know if that's rock band or if that's honestly a like an electronic drum electronic drums and you got guitars and stuff.
Let's see over here.
What would be your most ideal passion? Like, what would you if you were to like just make a living on what you absolutely love doing? What would that be?
What I'm doing now, which is just whatever I want, I guess. I don't know. I know that's a flippant
without
answer.
struggling, without having to take other jobs that you don't necessarily want to take, like just doing what really excites you. What would those be?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's not a sarcastic answer, just what I'm doing now. I mean, because the things I've done have allowed me the freedom to pretty much do whatever I want, and that's what I do. I make cartoons. I do a lot of stop motion animation. I do a lot of 2D animation. I do a lot of editing. Play music. the majority of it just for my own amusement. But yeah, I mean, at any given time, I'm doing whatever I want to do. As far as making a living, I've always, had pretty good luck making a living, whether it was running businesses or building up companies and then selling them, or my video work or whatever. Just I don't know. Over the years, just done whatever. Been lucky enough to do whatever struck my fancy at that time, and not really cared about whether or not I was going to make money at it. And I've always been lucky enough to make money at it. So.
So you make cartoons?
Yeah, I mean, just for my own amusement, I always have for years. Yeah, I mean, I've been making animations and stuff for hell ever since I bought that first Betamax, and the '80s, early '80s. I was making music videos and animations and stop motion animations. It was a lot tougher then than it is now. I mean, now you just with the computer you can do that stuff a lot quicker. But yeah, way back in the '80s, I was had a bendable Pink Panther doll and was doing stop motion animation with that and drawing out pictures and doing, those type of things. Yeah.
Is there a way that anybody can see these things? I'd really be interested in seeing what kind of creations you've made.
Yes and no. I mean, obviously every once in a while some little thing will pop up that is something that I've done. Uh-oh, I hear Jack. I heard hello, hello. Hello, hello. We heard 2 hellos, Jack. That's all we got. So whatever you did, you're almost on it. Anyway, no, I'm not trying to be secretive or whatever, but there's a few things out there that you can see, and then there's stuff that I do that's not connected. 'Cause, hello, we're hearing you. We might hear you. Okay, he's holding up another note.
Oh, he says, oh, it's over here in the chat bar. He goes, I wasn't talking, I swear. But he did say, and I think you might have answered this, but did Michael hire that actress to smoke out Andy, so to speak?
Once again, I can only give you speculation. What I know, or speculate, or know, or both, she wasn't hired by Michael, and it wasn't. I don't know. My understanding is Al Perinello did that kind of with a wink-wink blessing from Michael, but I can't really say that for sure because, I can't say how or why I know that. And why was it done? It was done, I don't know, just speculation. In my opinion, it was done, 1, to promote the Andy Kaufman Awards, 2, to carry on the myth and the legend and all the stuff. I'd like to be egotistical and say it was a poor attempt to do what I do, but that would be super egotistical to do that. But it was like, if I wanted to make fun of it, I could say, what in the world were they thinking? I mean, what like they in this day and age, they didn't think that girl was going to be figured out in 5 minutes. I want to say, oh, it was pure genius. Oh, they knew she would be figured out, but it was going to be the bigger smokescreen and the misdirection so that Michael could go on and talk about the letter. But I'm not convinced that it wasn't just kind of a, okay, I'll say it, kind of a doofus attempt at doing what Andy might do, and it did. And I don't know, maybe I said enough. I think that's all I needed to say. I think it was kind of a doofus attempt at being Kaufman-esque. Not that I know what Kaufman-esque means, but it certainly got people thinking and talking, and who knows what Michael's intentions are? Who knows? Is he all about promoting the awards? Is he all about honoring his brother? Is he trying to get his brother a reaction? I mean, I don't know because I can't speak for him, obviously. So There you go. I have no clue.
Well, Stephen, to get back to and real quick, this is what Jack put up there. My thoughts exactly. It was fun, but Andy would have done it flawlessly.
Yeah, yeah. I think Zamuda said it best. If Andy Kaufman had lived, he would be faking his death. I mean, it's all in that statement in the book. You know, everything springs from that. You know, Andy Kaufman's dead, and if he had lived, what would he be doing now? He would be faking his death. And it's all about the bigger picture. It's all about, you know, the world's greatest illusion, the world's biggest put on, and the world's most fascinating thing, and that's what he strived for. I mean, they say it in the movie. That's one thing in the movie they definitely touch on that really kind of, to me, hits it, is when he's having that dinner with Shapiro, or they're at a club or something, their first official meeting, he says, I want to be the greatest entertainer in the world, you know? It's like, okay, well, going to be the greatest singing ability and greatest acting ability, and without being able to tell a good joke, and with all these things, how are you going to pull off being the greatest entertainer in the world? I mean, you know, for everybody that calls Andy a genius, step back and try and answer that question. How could that man being the greatest entertainer in the world? You know, how could he out Houdini? How could he out Elvis? How could he, you know, be bigger than Liberace? You know, and I think 50 years from now, people will say, well, yeah, he did it. But who knows?
I just want to get back to what you're talking about concerning your talents and stuff. I mean, I'm finding myself in these positions where I'm able to plug people into stuff, and I really, in addition to collaborating with you, Stephen, in these sort of forums and whatnot, I really would. I mean, I really want to be able to give back to you what you've done for me, and I want to be able to, you know, my future self is in a position where he can actually, you know, pay you to do what you do best and what you love the most, and that way you don't have to work at other jobs. You know, you can just literally just do what you love doing and make money at that, and in addition to that, go along with the Andy Kaufman stuff too. And I really want to. I want to be able to give back to you what you've done for us.
Well, just your showing up and doing what you do is giving back. I know that sounds hokey and cliche, but just your participation. You know, nobody's keeping score, and I know you're not, but you know, nobody's keeping score. Who does what, and who does more, and who's doing it right, and who's doing it wrong. So you know, you're a huge part of this. Anybody that gets involved in this is a huge part of this. And what you're saying is flattering. I really do appreciate that, but what am I trying to say? Don't worry about me. I mean, I thank you for those thoughts, but don't worry about me. You know, as we've got a lot of future left, and can we collaborate on something in the future? Sure, most likely. You know, who knows? But certainly, if you have any concerns about me, don't worry. I don't know. Well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I appreciate what you're saying. It's very kind, but as far as my activities and stuff, I'm going to use a word that I don't like, but I'm very blessed as far as that goes. You know what I mean? My successes have been huge, and that's probably because I don't have a big barometer on what is and what isn't success. But you know, my successes have really been great. You know, because I've always done whatever I wanted to do at any given time and done it, you know, to the best of my ability and with gusto and passion. And when I was done with that, I left and moved on and did something else. And like I said, that's everything from, you know, starting companies and building companies and doing this and doing that. And I've had a wonderful life and wonderful careers and wonderful jobs, and you know, and there you go. So if I go and, you know, if I'm let's say, okay, I go and I'm a dishwasher, that doesn't mean I'm destitute. That means I like being a dishwasher, or, if I'm working as the Statue of Liberty for Liberty Tax out on the street waving, it's because I want to exercise and want to put on a costume and amuse people. It's not that I need, whatever, $8 an hour or whatever. Yeah. So I don't know where I'm going with this, other than that's what everything you said is very heartfelt, and I appreciate it and all that kind of stuff. And I certainly don't want to be intentionally secretive and say, oh well, I'm, I don't want to ever do this or do that. I could see, who knows what we may do someday down the road, but yeah, I don't know. What am I talking about?
Well, let's say, for instance, let's say I decided that I wanted to write a screenplay about how, either my journey through all these years with following AndyKaufmanLives.com and following the Twitter stuff and just our interactions in this fashion, or let's say I just want to make a movie just about how Kaufman faked it, could I utilize you? Could I collaborate with you as a consultant or something of that fashion?
Off the top of my head, I don't have a good answer for that. I wouldn't say that's out of the question, but I certainly can't commit to anything either. I don't know. It certainly is open for possibility in the future that, yeah. I don't have an answer. I'm sorry. I wouldn't resist something like that, but I can't make a bunch of commitments as to what my participation would be either, because that wouldn't be fair, because then I might say a bunch of stuff that then I don't live up to, and I try never to do that type of thing. Mm-hmm. I'll mislead and smokescreen and whatever, but I don't, and I'll piss people off, but I don't ever want to mislead somebody in that, they think they've been promised something and then they don't get it, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which was the thing that always cracked me up about that whole business, and it resurfaced on our last Google Hangouts a few months ago, where the whole thing of supposedly meeting these people in Las Vegas, and they were stood up and all that stuff, and to me that's a prime example of something I would never do. I mean, the very few times I have ever committed to somebody to do something, obviously I'm the type of person, like I hope most people are, you would never do that and not do your best to live up to it. I would have never told Jack I was going to send him tickets to the House of Blues and then not do it, and say, aha, I fooled you, whatever. That's horrible. I would never do something like that. And this girl, Ruby, not Ruby Tuesday, but whoever that I met in Arizona, and gave her whatever I gave her, and she gave me the letter. I gave her a book or something. I mean, I was very serious about showing up, and I showed up, and I was there, and I did it. Tupelo, the guy in Nashville, when I promised him whatever I promised him, I showed up and I did it. And then there was somebody in Ohio who actually stood me up. I drove to Ohio, and he was performing as a street musician, and he got sidetracked or something. But I mean, so I'm careful about what I promise or what I'll say or do, because I want to live up to that and never screw somebody around by thinking it's funny to commit to something and not do it. So I have to be careful about what I say I will do, but I'll say that, who knows? Always keep me posted and always ask me questions, and who knows, maybe we can do something like that. But to me, in my mind, we are collaborating. We've been collaborating for 10 or 12 years, because once again, it's all in my value system and what I put value on and how I look at things, and I one person being turned on to Kaufman or whatever, to me, is a success. One hit on a video is success. I don't put a video up and sit there and count the hits, and if it only gets 10 hits, that's great. That means at least 10 people watched it, and maybe they got something from it, maybe they didn't. I don't cry because it didn't get 100 hits or whatever. And like I said, I guess that's just, that's how I perceive things. like my cheeseburger video. I could be mad that nobody ever made any comments about my cheeseburger video, but that's okay.
Which one is that?
I'm kidding. No, I did something stupid a while back. I animated a cheeseburger for that guy that was giving me grief. It was funny. There was some psychic guy or something, a psychic podcast, and there was some guy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he put up a picture of him in a cheeseburger, and it wasn't a high quality video, but I always pride myself in being very quick. So like he put that picture up in the morning of him holding up this big stuffed cheeseburger, and within a few hours I had this animated video up of him in the cheeseburger, and it got some views and stuff, but no comments. And just now I was joking that nobody really seemed to appreciate that. I was trying to pretend to be somebody who cared about that kind of stuff and saying nobody appreciated it, because I got a kick out of that. I love that video. And I even wonder, and this sounds egotistical, but did anybody watch it all the way through? Because to me, the part up front's cute, but the funnier part is the bloopers at the end. I love the bloopers at the end. To me that was the joke, to have him with this singing cheeseburger, and then all of a sudden the credits roll, but within those credits there's a couple bloopers, and I was really proud of that. And I think if I ever win an award or ever whatever, I want that on my gravestone, a picture of that cheeseburger. No, that's not true. I'm making stuff up now.
It's awesome.
But if you get a chance to watch it. It's up on the Puzzlementary. It's called Brokeback 2.
Yeah, I saw that. That. Who's the guy who's with the intuitive lady?
Yeah.
The intuitive gal.
And it's putting on the Ritz, and the cheeseburger sings the first part, the Gene what's his name part of putting on the Ritz, but then what's his name won't do the other part, and then he starts singing anyway, and then it goes into one of my favorite songs of all time. I used Joey Ramone's version of It's a Wonderful World and ran it under sped up credits from Brokeback Mountain, and then within that I put a couple bloopers that made me laugh.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing that with the Brokeback Mountain credits. I thought that was awesome that you put all those. Hold on, I'm gonna bring this up right now. Oh my God. Yeah, you made his mouth moving. You. Oh, here it is, Brokeback 2. Yeah, there it is. How do I? You're probably as clueless as I am concerning this stuff, but how do I actually put a video into the?
Yeah, I know it can be done, but I don't know how to do it. I even watched a tutorial on it once, several months ago, but I don't really even remember what I watched. I would aim it at the TV, but I don't think it would come out.
I cannot work with this. Oh man, dude, this.
Yeah, I cannot work with this mother, and then he cuts him off, and finally says putting on the Ritz, because he didn't say it in the beginning of the video, and then the director yells cut, and then that infectious laugh at the very end. I love the laugh, and I actually took it from a McHale's Navy blooper. The laugh at the very end.
It's awesome how you make his eyes bug out, and his mouth is like sideways, like really up there.
Yeah, like I said, I don't so much pride myself on the quality of it. I pride myself that I got it out as quick as I did. Very shortly after he put up the picture of the cheeseburger, I wrote, produced, edited, put together, and slapped that sucker out there. And
well, I think what's actually brilliant about it is that most of it is the credits. That's what's so cool.
Yeah, there's very little. There's the opening segment where he won't sing, putting on the Ritz, and then there's the credits, and then there's one blooper buried within it where I actually took that from Laugh-In. Alan Seuss is in his very effeminate voice is bitching about something. And then there's the credit at the very end, which is, like I said, it's a computer voice, saying I cannot work with this, and then there's putting on the Ritz, and then the cut and the laughter is from a blooper from McHale's Navy. And it's definitely my masterpiece. That and Cialis. I don't know if you saw the Cialis video.
Oh yes, yeah.
Cialis is hard at work there. From Green Acres.
Yeah, that was cool that you were able to.
Yeah,
You
it's
able to
actually.
stick that in there. And then what I thought was brilliant was that the fact that I ended up after you shortly put that up there, I realized that they're planning on making a Green Acres movie.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. It's what's really crazy about that whole situation is that Richard Bear is still alive. That just flips me out. The guy that directed the majority of the Green Acres, and he has got to be about 100 years old, literally.
Wow.
And it's amazing that he's still alive and still has his hands in it enough to where he and a partner are the ones that I believe got their hands on the rights to Green Acres. But yeah, Richard Bear's got to be pushing 100.
So, Richard Barris, is he related to the guy? I remember on AndyKaufmanLives.com. There's that infamous photo of, and you were saying you and Diane were thinking of moving to that very place where that picture was taken. Sometimes you put it up there. It's like the gosh, what is it? There's like a big building off to the left. There's I think a donut shop on the right or something. Gosh, Jack, you just recently.
You talking about the Albuquerque picture from?
Yeah.
From oh wait a minute, here is that it? Wait a minute, let me unplug the iPad just a second.
But and it's on your wall. Yeah, it's on your wall. Yeah. So on AndyKaufmanLives.com, off in the right-hand corner, there was a guy, and I think his name was Richard Barris, actually. Wasn't his name Richard?
Well, first off, Bear, the director is Bear, B-A-R-E, Richard Bear. And I'm kind of lost on where you're going as far as what you're saying about the picture.
Well, in AndyKaufmanLives.com, in that picture, there's a picture of a little guy in the right-hand corner. And I thought you had said his name was Richard Barris, but maybe it was Dave Barris. I can't remember. But B-A-R-R-U-S.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I'm not playing dumb. There's just so much of this crap that I don't retain it. I don't remember it. So I'm kind of lost on what it would be. I mean, the history of this picture I've talked about before is just it was taken in 1969, and it's what motivated us to move here. I've always loved this picture, and it's of Route 66 going through Albuquerque. And so when we were trying to decide where to move next, this is why we wound up here. I wanted to go back to Florida. Diane wanted to go to Las Vegas. And we saw the picture and thought, well, let's go see what Albuquerque's like. And so we moved to Albuquerque and have been here for 5 years now. And, yeah, and that street's still there and that building's still there. And the Kentucky Fried Chicken is not a Kentucky Fried Chicken, but the sign's still there. A lot of that stuff's still there. So, but as far as a picture, I don't. I know I posted a picture once where there was like a homeless guy off to the side. Maybe that's
Yes.
what to do with it. But see, I
Yeah,
don't
and
ever.
his name was hidden in the text. I thought it was Richard Barris, B-A-R-R-U-S. Maybe it was Dave Barris or something. But it alluded to the idea that he had something to do with everything that was.
Yeah, see that once again. There's the magic word alluded to. The blunt, honest answer is, in the early 2000s, we actually thought it would be funny to find out where the picture was taken, and we just went on a road trip. Me and Diane from Indianapolis just went on a road trip and drove all night and wound up in Albuquerque to find the street where the picture was taken, and we spent a day here and then took off and went to Colorado. So it was just kind of like, let's go find the street. And those pictures were taken that Sunday morning, and that's just a homeless guy on the street. So who knows? Somewhere along the way, I probably named him or tried to create some kind of mystery around him or something. But the very honest answer is that's just somebody on the street. That was nothing. That was.
Oh, gotcha.
I was shooting off 100 pictures of the street while we were on our visit, thinking you know, it was the coolest thing in the world, and he just happened to be in the picture. So if I ever named him, it was part of a bigger joke that I don't remember what it was.
Real quick, as a side note, Jack just put this over here. He goes, I know you like the Munsters. What about Addams Family? I just got into watching that.
I like the Addams Family. I'm certainly not as much a fan as the Munsters, and just because I like sillier stuff, and that's just the way I've always been since I was a little kid. My brother was more into, like, you know, he's watching Scooby-Doo and I'm watching Yogi Bear. You know, I mean, I'm more the silly, slapstick, cartoony, funny kind of. And even though I liked the Addams Family, they were a little darker, and I don't like them as much. Whereas the Munsters were it was just light and goofy and, you know, unrealistic and you know, more lighthearted. And so I'm definitely a huge Munsters fan and just kind of a passive Addams Family fan. I think Addams Family is okay, but yeah, I just look up Richard Bear on Wikipedia. He's 100 years old. He was born in 1913. That's crazy. He's still alive.
Wow. Richard, what is it? Richard Barris? What is it?
No, Bear, B-A-R-E. Richard L. Bear, B-A-R-E. He actually was somebody that my dad's Frank Inn very involved with, because Richard Bear was a director at Filmways, and Frank Inn did a big part of his animal training work, you know, with Arnold Ziffel and all that stuff at Filmways. So their lives were intertwined quite a bit. But Frank Inn is long dead. He died, I guess it wasn't that long ago, maybe 15 years ago.
I'm looking up Richard Bear right now. He's popping up on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a good, you know, those American Heritage whatever interviews. Those are great. They're where they just interview people from the business. I don't know if you've watched those much.
No.
Those are great. If you ever get the chance, find those. Even if you just like Google Richard Bear and look for videos of him, you'll stumble across an interview from that series, and then try and dig into that series and find where you can find their website and their stuff on YouTube. It's awesome. It's anytime you see like somebody from the business just sitting there being interviewed straight on for like 2 hours, that's what it's from. So there's a George Shapiro, there's a, you know, there's all these great interviews. You know, I'm sure you've seen them. You've seen like clips of George Shapiro talking about when he first met Andy and, you know, what he thought of Tony Clifton. That's taken from this series, and that's what they're doing.
Wow.
They're archiving these people before they croak. They're just archiving all this wonderful stuff from them.
Well, it looks like this one, back in 2012, Richard Bear was 99 back in 2012. Yeah, so you're right. He's like 101.
Let's see, 1913, so yeah, he would have been, or he will be, he was 100 last August, and he'll be 101 coming up this August 12th. So yeah,
wow.
He is ancient. He's crotchety. He's a crotchety old man, or he's a crotchety person.
Just that term crotchety is always I always get a kick out of it.
That's him. He's crotchety. But that's, you know, that's why he was great at what he did. To handle a kind of just, you know, Green Acres is a great example. He directed almost every one of those, and to get that done in the amount of time it needed to be done and get it done as well as it got done, it took somebody like a crotchety old director like Richard Bear to do it.
Gosh, man. Well, listen, I really hate to go, but I have a few things I still got to get done here. But man, I just had a blast hanging out with you guys. And
oh, no problem. And I feel bad for Jack that he keeps getting screwed over on the whole deal. Hopefully, one of these days, something will get, the gods will smile down on him and make his microphone work or something.
Yes. Wow, man. Well, you guys, this is like just been very successful. This is now recorded, and it's up there for the sake of immortality, and it's
And I guarantee you, I will never watch it once. and that's no offense to you or anybody that watches it and may enjoy it. I just can't stand to hear my voice. I can't stand to hear things I've said because I'm constantly thinking, "Oh, you idiot! Why did you say that?" No, whatever. So that's one thing I can guarantee you is I will never ever watch this. Matter of fact, the only reason I ever went back and skimmed through the chaosology crap that we did a while back was I wanted to find that foreign guy that called. That was just so freaking hilarious. That foreign guy that called and, kept talking about Pikachu. And so yeah, but I never watched any of those either, other than to skim through and find that clip of him talking about Pikachu. Okay, well I'll let you go.
Gosh, man, I had a blast. I all my questions were answered, and so thank you for that. And I really appreciate this.
Happy to do it. Okay.
All right, Jack. Goodbye to you, and thanks for hanging out and knowing that this will live in history, and it's very exciting.
And we'll need to do it again in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay. Talk to you later.
All right, you guys. Take care. Bye.